I allay fears by let them see me out there.
During a press conference following the NATO summit, Biden said European leaders tell him he must defeat Donald Trump. A suspect in custody after a Texas detective was shot and killed Thursday in what authorities are calling an ambush. Ed Gonzalez is with the Harris County Sheriff's Department.
He's an amazing young man, taken far too soon, a hero. He was a true crime fighter that always was go, 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 and was just loved serving and protecting the people.
The department mourning the loss of 28-year-old Deputy Fernando Escueda. Authorities say the suspect, Ronald Palmer, has been arrested after less than 24 hours on the run. Fulton County, Georgia Election Board late last night voted to bring in independent monitors to observe all voting operations in the general election. Members narrowly approved the measure yesterday. It goes to the state election board for a green light. 5 were wounded in a shooting early this morning in the Lawndale neighborhood. Chicago police say the shooting took place in the 1300 block of South Lawndale Avenue. Loved ones of a person from Chicago who went missing in the Bahamas last month are demanding answers. Taylor Casey went missing June 19.
The pain I felt 42 years ago while birthing you doesn't compare to the pain I feel on today with you missing out of our lives.
Taylor Casey went missing on June 19. And another Illinois lawmaker is calling on President Joe Biden to end his re-election bid following that poor debate performance last month. Chicago area Representative Brad Schneider called on Biden to step down yesterday, just hours after freshman Congressman Eric Sorensen of the Quad Cities also said it's time for Biden to step down. Cubs complete the sweep of the Baltimore Orioles with an 8-0 drubbing at Camden Yards. White Sox look to get back in the win column when Garrett Crochet and the Sox host the Pirates at Guaranteed Rate Field. And Justin Thomas is on top of the leaderboard after round 1 of the Scottish Open at the Renaissance Club. The news service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager explains today's environmentalist.
The environmentalist movement is overwhelmingly composed of people who want to destroy civilization as we know it. Whether they want to because they think that that's how it will be saved, or whether they just have a loathing of the freedom you have if you have a car.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement, but you don't have a plan customized to your goals, it's like kind of taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in the suitcase. Sounds like a stressful way to begin what should be a relaxing time. Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to reduce future taxes, address Social Security and health care, and a whole lot more, all with a clear, defined income strategy. Call the Alpha Wealth Group at 630-934-1855. Ask for the complimentary retirement plan. That's 630-934-1855 or online at alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on AM 560.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
When I came across Balance of Nature, I knew this is the product for me because it just smelled real. Balance of Nature has fruits and vegetables in the ingredients. With Balance of Nature, I feel great.
Hi, my name is Tina, and I love playing music. I really love my music. I love it because it makes me feel happy, puts me in another world. It's awesome. I started taking Balance of Nature 2 years ago. I love Balance of Nature. It makes me feel great.
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Don't miss out. This offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors in Roselle. Summer is here, which is the ideal time to let the sunshine in and brighten up the house. Make those rooms that may appear small, dark, or dingy look better and bigger with larger windows or patio doors. Our highly skilled installers can enlarge openings if your space allows. For decades, Woodland has been transforming living spaces with Marvin windows, featuring styles ranging from modern to traditional. Marvin replacement windows and doors can also bring your backyard right into your living space. Ask us about connecting the inside to the outside. Since 1969, our professional services, along with the best products and installation, are why we are proud of our great online reviews. Need new windows now? Buy now, pay later with 0% financing for 18 months. Terms and conditions apply. Visit woodlandwindows.com and schedule an appointment today. That's woodlandwindows.com.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
5:40. Let's get a quick update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Dan Ryan, stop-and-go traffic inbound between 35th and the Stevenson. 3 right lanes are blocked due to a medical emergency. Crews got on the scene, had to break windows to try and help a person inside that vehicle. So watch out for that inbound on the Dan Ryan this morning between 35th and the Stevenson. Full-on medical emergency, lots of equipment on the scene. The news, a service of Valdecast Windows for the discerning homeowner looking for high-quality and professional-level window replacement. Contact Valdecast Windows, your award-winning Platinum Elite Palace-certified contractor. Visit Valdecast.com. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast, sunny to partly cloudy. A little humid this afternoon, high 85. Mainly clear, a little more humid overnight, low 67. Clear and 66 right now. Next news at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Get Down to Business with Shalom Klein, the show for business powered by Mirabali Insurance. Sunday evenings at 6.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Amy is off today, so it's just me, just little old me. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line is the call-in number. As you know, we were discussing, and we'll continue to here, yesterday's big boy press conference from the big guy. And again, unfortunately for him, the top takeaways will be misnaming his vice president and misnaming the president of Ukraine in the NATO summit and the press conference subsequent to the NATO summit. The question was asked before the break, if Biden doesn't volunteer to take the stairs, what can Obama do to impose punishment on him and his family? You know, the Obama judicial appointees. Yeah, not much. Not much. I know there's this, I don't know, fascination with the idea that Barack Obama is omnipotent and omniscient. Like he lives at the center of the earth, to turning dials and pulling levers. Not really. No. It doesn't quite work that way. There's a lot of competing interests, and there's a lot of variables, and there's a lot beyond his control. And if he was so great at orchestrating everything so brilliantly, then how would the Democrat Socialists be in the quandary they are in now? Does this strike you as a well-executed plan at present? Because it doesn't strike significant numbers of Democrats, does it, who are running for their political lives, or at least they appear to be. They think they are. So you may want to ratchet down your belief in the all-knowing, all-powerful Barack Obama. Something else Dan Henninger wrote in the Wall Street Journal, which should be obvious, but the conventional wisdom, because it feeds a certain perception, just sort of takes on a life of its own in spite of logic and evidence. Dan Henninger in the Journal. The intensity of Mrs. Biden's commitment to another presidential run for her husband brings to mind the idea recently floated that the only ones who could convince Biden to step aside are Obama and Clinton. Conventional wisdom portrays Biden as one of the nice guys in politics. Maybe. More relevant to the current moment is that Mr. Biden is a man possessed of deep, enduring resentments. Obama may be the last person who could talk about of running, but Mr. Biden sees himself as an FDR-like savior who desperately wants a second term to equal Obama. Clinton is complicit in the party's humiliating 2015 decision to pass over the two-term vice president for Clinton. Did we forget about that? So I understand that we're supposed to take Biden and the press corps, the D.C. press corps, at face value, that of course he thinks he can do the job, and he's done such a heroic job. He's been such a successful president. You don't want to tarnish your legacy, and he thinks he's the best man for the job until he can be proven otherwise by polling data or some such thing. And at the end of the day, like it normally is, it's probably much more about ego and personal slights and vendettas. And ironically, if that's a fair assessment, or at least certainly part of the assessment, then those slights and those vendettas are felt and held against the very people that everybody's saying is going to talk him out of the race. Does that strike you as a curious proposition? It does me. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. George in Naperville, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, Dan, the President of the United States asking a reporter to be nice before he asks his question is disturbing.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a little idiosyncratic. I mean, this is, Joe trying to be collegial and relaxed with the press corps. Hey, be nice to the old man now, sort of being self-effacing, or at least attempting to. There were some other portions of the press conference that were more disturbing. But here again, it's sometimes difficult to distinguish, Joe Biden, the cipher, which he's been for his entire adult life, from, Joe Biden, the diminished Joe Biden of the diminished capacity. So, for example, since this is his areas of expertise, even though, as Robert Gates famously said, can't think of a foreign policy issue on which Joe Biden has been right in the last 40 years. This Joe Biden versus Joe Biden, within the span of 1 minute, talking about something he's been talking about for a long time, so you think he'd have some clarity of position on the topic? Joe Biden versus Joe Biden on Putin, and whether or not he would engage Putin.
Is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin. I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk, including if Putin called me and wanted to talk.
I'm not prepared to talk to him. I mean, literally within the span of 60 seconds in that press conference. I'll talk to anybody who wants to talk, including Putin. This is, sort of the kind where you're sort of trying to remember lines, regurgitate the canned can't you've been saying for at least the last 4 years, if not for most of your life, just inserting different names to familiar descriptions. That's the stuff that, I don't know, probably doesn't get the level of attention. Maybe some people notice that inside the bubble. Does it really matter, though, when you've misnamed your vice president and you don't even pick up on it? You can't even hear yourself talk. I don't know. Biden did try to recast some of the caricatures of the things that he has said or the things that are reportedly doing to make sure he doesn't have another bad night on the debate stage again, September 10th. Like this alleged 8 p.m. curfew he has. I'm up for the job, but I'm in bed at 8. Don't disturb me. So he tried to provide some more color on that. It's not how it was reported.
What I said was, instead of my every day starting at 7 and going to bed at midnight, it'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of starting a fundraiser at 9 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock. People get to go home by 10 o'clock. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, and if you look at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign, in the debate, I mean, my schedule has been full bore. I've done, where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball? I mean, look, he's done virtually nothing. And I don't know how many, don't hold me to it, roughly 20 major events. Someone with thousands of people showing up. And so I just think it's better. I always have an inclination, whether I was playing sports or doing politics, just to keep going, not stop. I just got to just pace myself a little more.
Yeah, that's all. He's indomitable, just at a nice leisurely gait. That's all. By the way, really throwing down on the golf thing still. Now he's accusing Trump of cheating, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball. I'm still willing to sponsor that skins game at Olympia Fields between the two of them. Sean on the Northwest Side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning. I don't know how I feel about your comment where you say it's about his ego, it's about him wanting what's rightfully his. I don't think he's got the cognitive ability to really have that kind of mentality. I think it's all Jill. I think it's all Hunter. I think you convince them, they will convince Joe Biden. He's got no say anymore. I really don't. I just wanted to throw that in.
Thanks for the call. I think he does. I mean, I think it's, these armchair diagnoses probably, especially from neurosurgeons, probably are not far off the mark, but that doesn't mean that he is, completely without facility all times of the day. I don't think that's true. And I think there's evidence to suggest it isn't, including yesterday's press conference, which, wasn't the faceplant that probably many people in the Democrat Party are hoping for as a way to really ratchet up the pressure to get him out, because right now they haven't reached critical mass. Could change, but they're not there yet, and I think they know it. I mean, this is 48 hours ago, Jamie Harrison, chairman of the Democrat National Committee.
Is there any doubt in your mind that President Biden should be the Democratic nominee for president?
No doubt whatsoever, Willie. Listen, 14 million people in 50 states, in our 5 territories, in D.C., and our Democrats abroad went to the polls, did caucuses, and voted for Joe Biden to be our nominee. So without any hesitation, equivocation, I am saying Joe Biden, who has over 90%.
Was that clear enough for you? Joe in Naperville.
Yeah, what is this guy, Bill Murray from Stripes? He's pacing himself, sir. You know what I couldn't stand is he's got a list of reporters that ask questions, and then the one guy has to ask a question and go on a diatribe on how Trump is so bad for NATO. Tell me that wasn't scripted in some capacity.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I think they're definitely members of the press corps. Remember, the press corps is the comp shop for the party. So I think the press corps is probably, generally speaking, a divided house on Biden, as just like the larger party is. They're part of the party. So some want him to stay and some want him to go. Some are going to try and prop him up, and some are going to try to expedite his departure. Rich in Indian Head Park.
Hey, good morning, Dan. The last caller basically hit on what I was going to say. This was kind of scripted. When you tell people, the media, that you have a list of people to call on, now a press conference should be where randomly you call people and they ask you a question. But it seems like he has to have a list to call on people. And as far as Chris Coons goes, I'd like to know what he's done in the last 3.5 years that's been so great to this country. All I hear from this guy is every time he comes on a program, he continues to say how great he is, and he's one of the best presidents that we've ever had. I'd like to know where this guy lives, because he's not surely not living in the United States. Thanks, Dane. You have a nice day, buddy.
Thanks for the call, Rich. I thought the last 48 hours was nicely captured by Jimmy Fallon, of all people. Of course, I'm sure our friends Charles and John Anthony, Charles Thomas, John Anthony yesterday, addressed this CNN appearance by Nancy Pelosi in which she moved a little bit in her position on Biden's future, didn't she? Yeah, if he wants to do it, that's his decision. I mean, despite the fact he's had any number of events, including the day after the debate, reiterating that not only does he want to do it, he's going to do it, and he's not going anywhere. But hey, that's up to him, right? You heard that.
As long as the president it's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short. I think overwhelming support of the caucus. It's not for me to say. I'm not the head of the caucus anymore, but he's beloved. He is respected, and people want him to make that decision, not me.
He has said he has made the decision. He has said firmly this week he is going to run. Do you want him to run?
I want him to do whatever he decides to do, and that's the way.
So you have the realpolitik segment of the Revolutionary Party, nicely represented by Nancy Pelosi, her dissembling there. And then you have the ideologues, the true neo-Marxist ideologues that are backing Biden because they see utility in a second term for their interests. But so this has been nicely captured. Actually, it really was surprising to say. It's rare when we can play a fun clip from one of the late night talk shows, isn't it? Jimmy Fallon on this Pelosi-Biden exchange. I support whatever he wants to do. Well, he wants to run. Well, that's up to him.
When an 84-year-old Nancy Pelosi is telling an 81-year-old Joe Biden to retire. What is going on? That's right. When asked about Biden's candidacy, Nancy Pelosi said, it's up to the president to decide if he's going to run. In response to that, President Biden said, I've already decided I'm running. In response to that, Pelosi said, well, that's completely up to you. To which Biden responded, I know it is, and I'm telling you I'm running. To which Pelosi said, whatever you want, you tell me, I will accept. To which Biden said, I told you, I'm running. To which Pelosi said, either option is okay. To which Biden said, I understand that, and I've chosen my option. To which Pelosi said, when you're ready to share that option, I'm ready to receive that shared option. To which Biden said, I've already shared it. I feel like you want me to drop out. Which Pelosi said, it's not what I want, it's what you want, and that is to drop out. To which Biden said, that's not what I said. To which Pelosi said, you sure? And finally Biden said, honestly, no, I can't remember. So,
yeah, pretty good representation of the dance that has been going on in the last 48 hours.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Suburban Welding and Steel is your local welding, fabricating, and repair shop where service and quality is number one. Their dedicated team of experts can repair a job on site or in their shop located in Franklin Park. They have the machinery needed to get your project completed with the craftsmanship and precision so you can get back to business. Suburban Welding and Steel Services, more than just the manufacturing industry. They also service the food industry, heavy equipment, trucking, airports, and railroads. Walk-ins are also welcome, so if you need it welded, repaired, fabricated, or modified, Suburban Welding and Steel will do the laser cutting, machining, forming, and plate rolling for you. Or they have the materials you need in stock and ready for the purchase. And if you know a hardworking person looking for a career in the trade, Suburban Welding and Steel is looking to add to their team of experts. Visit suburbanweldingandsteel.com to see the full story on what they can do for you. suburbanweldingandsteel.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, as we all know, golf is a microcosm of life, and there is a parallel to the Biden saga going on in the golf world over at 3 Jack National, and Club Pro Guy has the story. We'll tackle it at 6:06. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Loved ones of a person who went missing in the Bahamas are demanding answers today. Another Illinois lawmaker is calling for Joe Biden to step aside. Illinois Republican leaders hope to choose a successor for Don Tracy today. Cubs blow out the Orioles. Sox and Pirates on tap. WIND, Chicago News Time, 6 o'clock.
One's a prosecutor, one's a felon. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. After calling Vice President Harris Vice President Trump at a news conference yesterday, President Biden says on social media he does know the difference. His performance otherwise is largely being described as fine. There were substantive answers about foreign policy. 18 Democrats in Congress, though, now say publicly the president should drop out of the race.
Using a press conference at the end of a NATO summit to dig into foreign policy and domestic accomplishments, President Biden said he is still the most qualified candidate to beat former President Trump.
I'm not in this for my legacy. I'm in this to complete the job I started.
The president also telling reporters Democrats in office concerned about the top of the tickets is not unusual.
And I might add, there are at least 5 presidents running or incumbent presidents who had lower numbers than I have now, later in the campaign. So there's a long way to go.
In Washington, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
President Biden campaigns in Michigan today. At least 2 deaths are reported in flooding in Vermont. More than 24 heat deaths are reported this week in Arizona, California, and Oregon.
Record-breaking heat continues to be dangerous for much of the West today and tomorrow. Things will settle down a little bit for this region, but expand over the Central Plains and Southeast over the next few days. With 1 million people still without power over Southeast Texas, the heat and humidity is making things worse.
Fox senior meteorologist Janice Dean. At least 1 person is dead, 2 missing in a tourist helicopter crash off the Hawaiian island of Kauai. Hikers reported seeing the helicopter go into the water. A landslide in Nepal sweeps 2 passenger buses into a flooded river with at least 60 people on board. At least 3 survivors swam to safety, but the buses and everybody else last we've heard are still missing. Rain and more landslides are making search and rescue efforts difficult. America's listening to Fox News.
Sunrise in Chicago, mostly clear skies, 66 degrees at 6:02 on AM 560. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. 5 are wounded in a shooting early this morning in the Lawndale neighborhood. It happened around 12:15 a.m. All were transported to Mount Sinai Hospital, a 25-year-old woman in critical condition. Loved ones of a person from Chicago who went missing in the Bahamas last month at a yoga retreat are demanding answers.
The pain I felt 42 years ago while birthing you doesn't compare to the pain I feel on today with you missing out of our lives.
Taylor Casey went missing on June 19. Another Illinois lawmaker is calling on President Joe Biden to end his re-election bid following a poor debate performance last month. Chicago area Rep. Brad Schneider called on Biden to step down yesterday. Meantime, freshman Congressman Eric Sorensen from the Quad Cities and the Rockford area also says it's time for Biden to step aside. Meantime, former Illinois State Senator Darren Bailey, a delegate for former President Donald Trump, excited about next week's Republican National Convention in Milwaukee.
That we can get somebody back in place who has a proven track record, someone who truly cares about America and had 4 years of absolute prosperity for our country.
There's still a lot of unknowns heading into the convention, including when Donald Trump will announce a pick for vice president. GOP Republican leaders are meeting today, choosing a successor for former Illinois Republican Chairman Don Tracy, who resigned last month. Those seeking to replace him include Palatine Township Committeeman Aaron Del Mar, Kathy Salvi of Mundelein, and State Rep John Cabello of McChesney Park. Chicago sports. Cubs sweep out the Baltimore with an 8-0 win at Camden Yards. Cubs will be without Cody Bellinger for quite a while after a fractured finger on the left hand. White Sox look to get back in the win column when they host the Pirates. The Fire go for their third straight home win when they host New York City FC at Soldier Field tomorrow. The news, a service of Blue Star Security. Support our police and hire the police to personally protect you and your business. Visit online to schedule a free security consultation at bluestarsecurityllc.com. We'll have a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Brandon Tatum doesn't understand the movement.
I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm sick of it, man. I'm sick of us giving special treatment to stupid stuff. Oh, look, Sally is bisexual. No, you're not. You're just a freak. It's just crazy to me. You get a whole month because you like Tony. Nobody know what you and Tony doing. Who cares? I don't get it.
The Officer Tatum Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, I'm Charlie Moon. I've been in the trading game for almost 20 years, and I just discovered the most powerful trading tool I've ever seen. So if you're trading stocks or options, then listen up. This new AI-powered trade finder can find you stocks to consider trading, which have had gains as high as 1,729% and have had nearly perfect win rates. It analyzes the entire stock market in seconds and pumps out a list of trades for you to consider every single morning. And the trades it finds can be potentially profitable regardless of which direction the market is moving. So if you want in on this action, listen closely. For a short amount of time, I'm opening up free access to some of these picks and giving you the chance to get top trade ideas from the AI Trade Finder every day for 100% free. Just text TRADE to 76626. Stop trying to find the right stocks to trade on your own. Just text TRADE to 76626 now and get access to the top trades our AI finds every single day. Text TRADE to 76626. Standard text and data rates may apply. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Text TRADE to 76626.
NYPD officer Jonathan Diller's tragic story made national headlines this year. Now, Jonathan was shot and killed by a career criminal during a traffic stop. Jonathan, who is just 31 years old, leaves behind his wife Stephanie and 1-year-old son Ryan. Now, nothing will ever replace the loss of a husband and a father, but the Tunnel to Towers Foundation was able to pay off the mortgage on the Diller family's home. Please commit to $11 a month. Go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Being active is important to me. As you get older, it gets a little harder every year. But if I had to get rid of all my other supplements, the one thing that I would continue to take in my life is Balance of Nature.
I've been taking Balance of Nature for a little over a year. It is important to have fruits and vegetables, and how convenient you got them in a capsule. Who doesn't love that? I'm going to continue to take it. Why stop something that makes you feel good?
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Don't miss out. This offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
6:08, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of David Hochberg. They've helped thousands. AM 560 listeners got help with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. Lower.com, equal housing lender, and MLS 1124061. Kennedy, a little soft this morning. It's doing all right. 30 minutes in, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Inbound Dan Ryan, though, medical emergency being cleared out of your way in the locals, inbound between Garfield and the Stevenson, but some delays still remain. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Sunny to partly cloudy and humid. High 85 today, 66 right now. Next news at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Money Hour Radio Show, Saturday afternoons at 3. Brought to you by Pure Shale Financial Group at pureshalefinancial.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Amy is off today, so it's just me. We're talking about the effort to save General Secretary Joe and how that's going for the competing interests. As I said, the neo-Marxist revolutionaries that form the base of the party that are backing Joe unequivocally. AOC, perhaps the most vocal, because they see in him an opportunity to pull the strings in a second term after the realpolitik or sort of more just standard issue leftists, identitarian leftists, are the ones moving to oust him. So that this will be remembered, depending on who is victorious, will be remembered either way. But in terms of if Joe Biden were to survive, thanks to the backing of the neo-Marxist revolutionaries, then who's he going to be beholden to? The neo-Marxist revolutionaries. Who's going to be the dominant force in the party, even more so than they already are? The neo-Marxist revolutionaries. That's their play. And the realpolitik old guard is trying to push them off. You know, we've seen this play out actually, like in the special elections in New York, where you have, moderate versus left, moderate is a misnomer for anybody in the Democrat Socialist Party today. The sort of center cut identitarian leftists versus the neo-Marxist revolutionary. The Mensheviks versus the Bolsheviks. That's the easiest way to say it, particularly since we're talking about General Secretary Joe. And as I wrote last week, the Democrat Party has gone full Soviet at this point. So Mensheviks and Bolsheviks is probably the best handle. Anyway, that's the dynamic. That's the power struggle right now. And Biden is a representation. What's happening with him is an embodiment of that fight for power. So this is going on in other sectors in the country too. I had no idea this could be more of a cultural phenomenon than we think. As I said, golf is a microcosm of life. So I was interested to learn from Club Pro Guy, and if you're not familiar with Club Pro Guy, you should get familiar with him. If you like the Babylon Bee, you'll love Club Pro Guy, even if you don't like golf. Club Pro Guy is in the midst of a battle as well with Glenn Brownlow, who is his Joe Biden, as he explains.
Okay, thanks for coming in. As you guys are probably well aware, the upcoming election for our Greens Committee chair is a mere 3 months away. With Miguel Vega's looming contract extension, along with our proposed transition from crabgrass to zoysia, this could be the most important election in our club's history. That's why I was so troubled to learn at last evening's committee meeting that our current chairman, 81-year-old Glenn Brownlow, has decided to run for re-election. Glenn's a decent enough guy, but let's face it, he no longer has the mental capacity to handle such a rigorous position, as evidenced by some of his recent decisions, like advocating that we fire Anastasia for theft and lack of attendance and replace her with our backup Joyce,
Cart girl,
full time. Or his decision to waste money top dressing the ladies' tee boxes or blowing money on 2 rakes for every bunker. I could go on, but I think the question the membership needs to be asking themselves is this the guy you trust with the sprinkler system codes? I don't think it is. The problem with getting Glenn to step down is Glenn's power-hungry wife, Captain Betsy Brownlow. You might be asking, was Betsy a captain in the military? No. Betsy was actually a sales captain at Mary Kay Cosmetics back in the 80s when she sold makeup door to door, and still insists that everyone at the club address her by that ridiculous title. Trust me when I tell you, Captain Betsy's not about to let Glenn step aside, no matter how many times Glenn makes an ass of himself, because Betsy is intoxicated by power. Speaking of intoxicated, perhaps an even bigger impediment to getting Glenn to step down is Glenn's son, Jerry Brownlow, who has managed to leverage Glenn's influence as Greens Committee chair to land multiple paid internships at various fertilizer companies, despite the fact that Jerry doesn't know jack about fertilizer. This is corruption at the highest levels. It doesn't help that Jerry is also a complete and total loser. He recently left his Android phone in a golf cart, and I don't have enough time to tell you what we found on it. The kids in the cart barn call it the cell phone from hell. I call it the only phone in America that didn't have enough gigabyte storage for its owner's own pics. The bottom line is Glenn's basically a vegetable who's being propped up by a family of hanger-oners. Knowing that, I am pleading with the membership to sign this petition calling for Glenn's immediate resignation as chair of the Greens Committee, along with his vice chair, Edna Frank, who, believe it or not, is even a bigger disaster than Glenn is. Okay? Thanks, guys.
Sound familiar? Yeah. So this is perhaps more ubiquitous than we know, these power dynamics and the difficulty of the changing of the guard and so forth. I hope it works out better for a Club Pro guy than I think it's going to for the Democrat Socialist Party. Lou, Southwest Side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, well, I just, yesterday I heard that the Heritage Foundation is going to file a lawsuit if they pulled Joe Biden off the ticket, because in 3 states, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Nevada, the only way that candidate can be taken off the ballot is if he dies. So anytime this, they put him on the ballot, and I think these Republicans in the Congress, and they should do just like they did to Mayorkas. I said they should make them remain on the ticket, because I don't think this is right, and I hope he stands up or whatever you got to do, because this is crazy what we got here.
Thanks for the call. Well, I mean, that's according to George Clooney. I mean, I'm going to appeal to a higher authority here. George Clooney in his New York Times op-ed. Let's hear from Wes Moore, Kamala Harris, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Andy Beshear, J.B. Pritzker, and others. Let's agree that the candidates not attack one. He's so cute. Let's agree that the candidates not attack one another, but in the short time we have, focus on what will make this country soar. Then we could go into the Democratic Convention next month and figure it out. Would it be messy? Yes. Democracy is messy. But would it enliven our party and wake up voters who long before the June debate had already checked out? It sure would. The short ramp to Election Day would be a benefit for us, not a danger. It would give us the chance to showcase the future without so much opposition research and negative campaigning that comes with these ridiculously long and expensive election seasons. This can be an exciting time for democracy, as we've just seen with the 200 or so French candidates who stepped aside and put their personal ambitions on hold to save their democracy from the far right. Yes, by throwing in with the neo-Jacobins. What a wonderful moment that was for France, George. Isn't George just darling? I mean, he's just as cute as a button. If they made this an open casting call and had some sort of floor fight at the convention, after essentially forcing Joe Biden out and the ill will that would be attendant to that, I mean, this would be a complete devolution. This would be the unraveling of the Democrat Socialist Party, at least for the short term being November of this year. The idea that this could be a seamless, energizing process that provides a new vitality to the party and interest among the electorate, focusing on the positive and big ideas for a brighter tomorrow for America. I mean, this is Pollyannish doesn't begin to properly characterize George Clooney's ramblings in the New York Times. Bob in Buffalo Grove.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. I'm going to date myself. The first convention I really paid attention to was 1964. Goldwater was going to be the nominee, but there was some objections on the floor of the convention. I still remember Nelson Rockefeller making a strong objection to Goldwater's nomination, and he got booed down. But that was also the convention that Reagan came to the spotlight. But I wonder if there'll be any fight on the floor of the DNC. If Biden is still attempting to run, will there be objections by other Democrats saying he's going to bring us down? That's just what...
Thanks for the call, Bob. I mean, there may be objections, maybe grumblings, but what are you going to do about it? Having an objection or a grumbling, a grievance, is not the same thing as putting together the sort of weight required to tip the scales in your favor, is it? Which is why I'm not, terribly impressed with, a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen, 4 dozen. Does it matter that much? Congress humans in that Dem Socialist Party moving on Joe Biden, publicly calling for him to step aside, as well as various ed boards and op-ed writers on the left. Think about it this way. How much is a congressional endorsement worth? What member of Congress has demonstrable coattails, holds real sway, particularly among this sliver of the electorate that matters in this race? And if it's not one congresshuman that most people don't know, somehow 40 that they don't know makes a difference. I mean, it may serve to demoralize the party a little bit, demoralize turnout. Divide the party. You want to be unified, and so on and so forth. The sort of the presentation of unity is never quite as accurate as it seems. There's always the disgruntled. There's always ankle biters and others for whatever reason that are not happy with the state of the party, the candidate selected. Now, this is next level, obviously, when you're having sort of open outcry against an incumbent president. It's highly unusual, and the circumstances even more so. I get it. But I just think that, if thinking about it through Joe Biden's lens, these Congress people, they don't really matter that much when it comes to my electoral interests. They're more doing what they think is in service of their electoral interests or their sort of political interests and relationships with donors. If you're in safe seats, you heard Mike Scott report Brad Schneider is calling for him to resign, whatever. just pretending. This is an opportunity for him to pretend to be independent and rising above partisan politics, to do what's good for the country, satisfy some of his leftist wealthy friends on the North Shore. Big deal. Doesn't matter to Joe Biden. It's not about Joe Biden. It's about Brad Schneider. And that's the case with most of them. So if I'm Joe Biden and I have so much more at stake than Brad Schneider's good graces, I'm worried about what his position is on me? No. And, you know, it's interesting, some of the focus grouping. I mean, this is very limited, so I'm not extrapolating much from this. But, you know, CNN went to Kalamazoo and interviewed some old ladies at a senior center. 7 old ladies in Kalamazoo. Sounds like the title of a Melissa Madigan movie. Amy Madigan movie, I'm sorry. Anyway, the 7 ladies in Kalamazoo, after watching the press conference, one was a little hesitant on Joe Biden, but some of the others are back in the fold.
You weren't decided before this happened if he should stay in the race. How do you feel now after watching this news conference?
Relieved, and I think he should stay in.
So your opinion has changed from not sure to he should stay in?
Yes.
Okay. And how about you? How do you feel? You weren't sure. How do you feel now?
Same. I think he's the logical choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you thought he should pass the torch. How do you feel right now?
I still believe he should pass the torch.
And why do you say that?
I think he conveyed more defensiveness versus confidence, and I think we are really craving to be able to be confident about the candidate that we carry into the November election.
How did you feel about this news conference just now? Did it give you more confidence in Joe Biden?
I have all the confidence that I did yesterday. So I just...
Were you confident yesterday?
Yeah, because everybody has a bad day, and I could see that he was sick, but for some reason they decided to do
With that, I think what came across was that of what he is. Joe Biden is very caring about people. He's very knowledgeable and experienced, and he's not just out for himself, that he really cares about the country.
And there's no chance that you would be more confident with the Kamala Harris or your governor here, Whitmer, here in the state of Michigan.
Right. Yeah. I think Joe Biden did an excellent job.
During this news conference.
Mm-hmm.
But was there any part of you before this that said, I'm not so sure that I can still support him and I want another Democrat?
I've always been confident in him.
Yeah. One of the things about incumbents, particularly somebody who's been as long serving as Joe Biden, is they build up constituencies, don't they? Which is why it's difficult to push him much lower than, I mean, he's basically scraping the bottom now. It's difficult to push him much lower than that because you have millions of Americans who think just like these women in Kalamazoo. I'm with Joe Biden. I'm with Joe. You know, he had a bad night. Whatever you say, whatever line of spin, I'll consume it and regurgitate it. He just had a bad night. I like Joe Biden. Joe Biden's done a good job. He's a big government guy. I like big government. I like abortion. So he's proven up, so I'm sticking with him. Which is why, you know, the national polls, even though it's not a national race, state-by-state race, of course, you know, it's margin of error. One poll has Trump up 2, another poll has Biden up 2. Now, the swing states, Trump is doing much better than he was 4 years ago at this time, of course. And there is understandable concern about Biden's position, which has deteriorated since the debate. But the reason that the Biden campaign has commissioned a polling on Kamala Harris versus Trump is not in furtherance of Kamala Harris. It's to present the case that Kamala Harris can't do any better against Trump than Biden, so you might as well stay the course. That's what they're trying to do. We'll see if it works. Steve in Oswego.
Hey, Dan, don't you think if he doesn't take the door, if they really want him out, they could expose all the corruption and the money he took from Ukraine and Russia and everywhere else, China, and then he would have to step down?
Well, thanks for the call, Steve. I mean, it's interesting question is, do they have information on Biden that only they have? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot of ink spilled over Biden Inc., that influence peddling operation. Is there something they could bring forward that would be sort of a smoking gun that would undermine even more so all the things that he has said about baby boy hunters' business dealings on behalf of the hillbilly crime family? Possibly. This has been my question for the last couple of weeks. You know, if he will not accept a graceful exit, if he will not take the stairs, then what are you willing to do to throw him out the window? What do you have that throws him out a window? And right now, all we've seen is, well, we've got more members of Congress and op-ed writers that are going to say he should leave the race. I don't think that's enough.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. As the press turns on President Biden, a radio show host and her station have parted ways. The host revealed the Biden campaign gave her pre-selected questions, and she asked them. Station leadership said the practice violated the standards of an independent media outlet. But wait a minute. For years, there have been pictures of the cards President Biden holds at press conferences. On them are the reporter's name, affiliation, and their question. Yes, the question has been drafted by the media outlet, not the campaign, but it's been pre-submitted by the outlet and selected by the White House. Certainly no unduly aggressive or embarrassing questions would be chosen, which eliminates the incentive for a reporter to ask them. The entire system was corrupt. If the radio show host deserved to lose her job, so do scores of White House reporters. I'm Carol Platt-Liebau.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Being active is important to me. As you get older, it gets a little harder every year. But if I had to get rid of all my other supplements, the one thing that I would continue to take in my life is Balance of Nature.
I've been taking Balance of Nature for a little over a year. It is important to have fruits and vegetables, and how convenient you got them in a capsule. Who doesn't love that? I'm going to continue to take it. Why stop something that makes you feel good?
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Don't miss out. This offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. Your business and your money are in good hands with Signature Bank. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Jason Zenger, owner of Zenger's Industrial Supply and host of the Making Chips podcast, and a proud customer of Signature Bank. Through rapid growth, acquisitions of competitors, and taking over from the previous generation, Signature Bank was there with us every step of the way. Recently, the team introduced us to FinRails AP, their proprietary system for accounts payable automation. Not only did FinRails AP help us to reduce costs and create efficiencies, but it also helped minimize fraud risk. Now, our company can invest time into what we do best, supplying industrial products, metalworking tooling, contractor tools, and safety supplies to those who make, build, and create great things for our country.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
AM 560, The Answer.
I'm more than a little disappointed I didn't get any props for Club Pro Guy. That was a wonderful piece of parody that Club Pro Guy did. Be more appreciative of Club Pro Guy. And by the way, go watch the video. I'll tweet it out because it's even more funny to watch at some of the pictures of the parties of interest. All right, coming up at 6:36, maybe the political leadership in Cook County in the city of Chicago specifically can take a cue from what our folks north of the Cheddar Curtain are doing. We'll talk to Eric Toney, who's the Fond du Lac County District Attorney, about the preparations that are being made to keep peace on the streets in Milwaukee for the RNC in a week. Eric Toney, and by the way, Fond du Lac County, home of the birthplace of the Republican Party, Mike Scott, which is what community? Ripon, Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
Ripon, Wisconsin. Birthplace of the Republican Party. Yes. Eric Toney, 636. Mike Scott right now.
Fond du Lac County yesterday, the county executive saying they're going to go back to some drop boxes in Wisconsin.
We'll have to talk about that, too.
Yeah, we'll see if that actually materializes. At 6:33, President Biden scheduled to attend a campaign event in Detroit today. His appearance comes after a lukewarm solo press conference yesterday, his first since last month's debate with Donald Trump.
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there.
Biden alleging other presidents have run with numbers much lower than his.
There are at least 5 presidents running or incumbent presidents who had lower numbers than I have now, later in the campaign.
The press conference was seen as a high-stakes event for the president as he faces increasing calls from fellow Democrats to drop his re-election bid. Former President Trump scheduled to be at one of the biggest cryptocurrency conferences of the year, scheduled to make an appearance at Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville this month. We're following developments just off the coast of Alaska this morning where Chinese military ships have shown up. The Coast Guard says all 4 of the ships were in international waters, but inside the U.S. exclusive economic zone that goes out 200 miles from shore. Texas Governor Greg Abbott calling for a major investigation into why so many Texans lost power after a weakened Hurricane Beryl made landfall on Monday. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says there were plenty of discussions with the White House as the storm approached.
I was with his FEMA officials Friday, Sunday, Monday for 12 or 15 hours a day.
Abbott saying he's directing the Public Utility Commission to look into why things went so. Well, to make you a little more hungry this morning, National French Fry Day is today. And yes, some local restaurants are marking the occasion by offering special deals. May I highlight Raising Cane's, among others, Wayback Burgers, Wendy's, Whataburger. 5 are wounded in a shooting early this morning in the Lawndale neighborhood. Chicago police say the shooting happened around 12:20 this morning in the 1300 block of South Lawndale Avenue. One woman, 25 years old, in critical condition. Kane County Coroner's Office identifies the teen killed in a shooting involving an off-duty Kane County Sheriff's deputy in Elgin. 18-year-old Tukwesi Nichols was shot and killed Monday near the intersection of Walnut and National. Kane County Sheriff Ron Haynes saying an armed robbery was in progress when the off-duty deputy was driving through and spotted the robbery, saw the Nichols attack. The suspect showed a firearm, and the deputy heroically intervened and shot him. Former Illinois State Senator Darren Bailey, a delegate for former President Donald Trump, excited for next week's Republican National Convention in Milwaukee.
That we can get somebody back in place who has a proven track record, someone who truly cares about America and had 4 years of absolute prosperity for our country.
GOP Republican leaders meeting today to choose a successor for former Illinois Republican Chairman Don Tracy, who resigned last month. Chicago sports find the Cubs winners over Baltimore. 8-0, a drubbing at Camden Yards, giving the win to Justin Steele. White Sox get back in the win column when they host the Pirates at Guaranteed Rate Field tonight. Well, they hope to anyway, with Garrett Crochet on the hill. And legendary football coach Monty Kiffin has died. He was 84. Kiffin spent 50 years as a coach at both the collegiate and professional levels. You may know him best as the designer of the Tampa 2 defensive scheme, crucial to the 2002 Bucs winning the Super Bowl, and worked pretty well for the Bears as well. Yes, that is his son, Lane Kiffin. The news, a service of quick delivery service, ground delivery when you need it from safe, licensed professionals. Go to quickdelivery.com now to schedule your delivery. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager can see the real hatred.
It's so obvious that it's hatred of Israel that is animating. There is so much more vast killings of innocents right now in West Africa. 60,000 Christians killed by Muslim terrorists since 2000. Any colleges taken over on their behalf?
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Attention maintenance coordinators and chief engineers. Welding is a craft requiring highly skilled personnel and specialized equipment. But who do you call when you need welding? Vans Industrial can perform all types of welding at your site or in their shop.
Hi, I'm Dave Van Camp, president of Vans Industrial. As a metal fabricator and installer, welding is a huge part of our business. At Vans, we have trained AWS certified welders, skilled in welding all types of alloys. We can weld carbon steel, stainless steel, brass, and aluminum with a variety of techniques, including MIG, TIG, and stick. We have equipment to reach the farthest parts or the tightest areas of your facility.
Vans uses only the best and safest union-trained mechanics insured at the highest level to perform the job right. Call 833-VANS-IND to schedule your welding project today. That's 833-VANS-IND. Visit vansindustrial.com. That's VANSindustrial.com. Vans Industrial, working safe since 1964.
When you're in chronic pain, you're miserable to be around, and so are the people who have to watch you suffer. So stop it. Do something about it. Now's the time to be proactive and take care of yourself. And there's another solution other than surgery or drugs. Call QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics, they have a cutting-edge treatment that revitalizes your joints with your body's own healing process. So if you have arthritis or if you're in pain in your knees, hips, shoulder, back due to an injury, you need to call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation and get your life and mobility back. You know, I've been to one of their clinics. I met a few of their customers. They were smiling from ear to ear, so happy to have their mobility back, pain-free, without surgery. They have locations all across the Chicagoland area, including new locations in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Call for a free consultation, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955, 312-809-5955.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
641, a quick update on the roads in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Not too bad this morning. 19 in on the Edens into the Junction, 35 in on the Kennedy into the Burns Circle interchange. Accident outbound Stevenson, 2 right lanes blocked. It's outbound between LaGrange Road and Route 83. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast. It is a service of Mattress Firm. Spectacular savings happening now at Mattress Firm's July 4th sale. The lowest price ever for a Sleepy's Queen mattress for just $89.99. Save and celebrate before it's too late. In-store only while supplies last. Restrictions do apply. Sunny to partly cloudy, humid today, 85. Clear and little more humid overnight, low 67. Partly cloudy and 65 right now. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Amy's off today, so it's just me. Anyway, BLM Brandon, I missed these comments on the day in which they were delivered, but it was Southside Pride Night last week. And in addition to his Nixon comment that's making all the rounds this week, he had this to say, did BLM Brandon, about the city and, the real problem in the city. You know what it is. Yeah, that's right, white supremacy.
Now look, white supremacy is real, y'all.
Say that. Say that.
I'm gonna say that one more time.
Say that.
Because in case the city of Chicago don't know, you got a black mayor with a black wife, black children on the west side of Chicago. And all of these other administrations that shut down our schools, that shut down public housing, that raided the pensions, that sold off the parking meter, that sold off the Skyway. Those people ran this city to the ground, and now they expect a brother to fix it in a year. Well, guess what? We're off to a great start, and I look forward to fixing they mess, building up our communities for the next 23 freaking years. God bless you, Chicago. Southside.
Yeah, no, things are going well. BLM Brandon Johnson, black mayor, black wife. We actually had a black mayor with a black wife just 4 years ago, the previous one, Lori Lightfoot. So I don't know. I guess that doesn't count for BLM Brandon, and ascribing some of the blame as well. I know Lori Lightfoot was a white supremacist. I think that's a tough charge to make out. But anyway, BLM Brandon, when the Marxist revolutionary becomes the inside guy, can he shake off the trappings of being an apparatchik for the teachers union? And the answer so far in the first year is no. And it's going to be put to the test next month, isn't it? August 19th to the 22nd. Those are the dates of the DNC. And Wall Street Journal writing about the summer of resistance that these Marxist, neo-Marxist revolutionaries like BLM Brandon used to be, perhaps still is, have planned for Chicago and for Milwaukee and for major cities around the country in advance of November. The most detailed protest plans for Chicago come from a group called Behind Enemy Lines, a self-styled anti-imperialist organization with a small but hardcore following that endorses militancy. Beyond Enemy Lines has demanded that Chicago cancel the DNC and asked supporters to, quote, escalate for Gaza, unquote, every Friday until the convention and, quote, make life miserable for the people inviting these criminals to Chicago. Well, that would be fair, since the people inviting these criminals to Chicago are making life miserable for the rest of Chicago residents. Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And perhaps a dry... And, oh, by the way, things are already afoot in preparation before I get to Milwaukee. The 10 City between the Dan Ryan Expressway and the 1100 block of South Des Plaines, that's being cleared out. That's cleared out this week, permanently cordoned off. The 22 people who have been living in that tent city, the blue and orange tents you see, have been moved to the former Tremont Hotel on Chestnut. What, the St. Regis wasn't available? Pritzker didn't offer the Hyatt? Interesting. So they're trying to spruce up the city, a la San Francisco, preparing for the arrival of President Xi last year. Sort of the same dynamic. What can we learn from how things are handled up in Milwaukee for the RNC, which begins in earnest Monday? Maybe, because obviously they're going to be dealing with some of these same groups, and they may be even more antagonistic towards the Republicans than they plan to be against Pritzker, BLM Brandon, and company if they don't get what they want in terms of their quote-unquote protest rights. For more on what's going on up north, maybe what Chicago Pauls can learn if they're so inclined, please be joined by Eric Toney, who's the Fond du Lac County District Attorney. And as I mentioned, Fond du Lac, the home of the Republican Party, the birthplace of the Republican Party, because it was in Ripon, which is in Fond du Lac. Eric Toney, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks for having me, and always love talking about Fond du Lac County being the birthplace of the Republican Party with a little white schoolhouse.
Yes, exactly right. All right, very good. And so what is? I've seen stories about Secret Service considering measures, new measures to provide space for protesters, but not make it so near the convention activities and so on and so forth. I mean, what's your assessment of how Milwaukee has prepared in conjunction with Secret Service, of course, and what potential spillover you're looking at in the suburbs that people are preparing for?
Well, we know they're trying to balance First Amendment rights of those that are coming to protest, because there will be many people that are going to be peaceful and trying to exercise their First Amendment rights. But we also know there are going to be those professional anarchists that are going to try and cause chaos, disruption, and destruction to property. And so we've got a security perimeter that's set up in the protest zone. We'll have essentially a parade route that'll be about, I think, 4 to 5 blocks away from the security perimeter, with a stage that's set up, and a federal judge recently ruled that those protesters are not going to be able to get inside that security perimeter. And so that ruling helps protect the First Amendment rights of those us conservatives that are going to be going to the convention next week. And one thing I would like to point out, if anybody is considering turning those protests violent, Wisconsin law enforcement was tested pretty heavily back in 2020, if you recall the protests in the wake of Jacob Blake and the destruction that happened in Kenosha in the wake of that. And there was mutual aid with law enforcement from all across Wisconsin helping keep the citizens and businesses of Kenosha and surrounding areas safe. And so I'm sure many of those same law enforcement officers are going to be in Milwaukee for mutual aid to help ensure that people remain safe.
What kind of communication is there between like City of Milwaukee Police and suburban police departments, the Milwaukee County State's Attorney and suburban county state's attorneys?
So one of the things I've seen, I think some of the efforts are going to be, at least in the city of Milwaukee, that the local Milwaukee law enforcement will be more front-facing, being more familiar with the city, and they'll likely have some of those mutual aid officers acting as support in various circumstances. And so our law enforcement in Wisconsin are incredibly well trained. And then from there, it's incumbent on our prosecutors, whether it be from the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office or from the Eastern District United States Attorney's Office, to ensure that those that are breaking the law, that are endangering the safety and security of citizens and damage to our businesses, are held accountable through the justice system. We have to make sure that deterrence is there, that if those that come to turn those peaceful protests into violence will be held accountable.
And the relationship leading up to next week's convention between the political leadership of the city of Milwaukee and the RNC and the Republican Party in Wisconsin, because of course this is not like in Chicago where you're all on the same side. You've got a Dem mayor and a Dem power structure in Milwaukee, and that's where you have the Republican convention. How has that been working?
So I'm one of our delegates for the convention, and when we, probably about a month or so ago, when we had our state Republican convention, we were already getting some updates on what the security situation would look like. I know Senator Ron Johnson has been involved in trying to ensure that security is bolstered as well. And one thing also to keep in mind, back in 2020, the Democrat National Convention was to be in Milwaukee before COVID, and so there were already plans put in place for that convention. And so I think some of the similar plans have been adopted and modified as time moved forward, where I think there is a pretty strong plan, and there's been communication that we've seen filter down to us as delegates as to what that security will look like, where the perimeter will be, and some guidance for those delegates just on some of the safety situations and understanding where that parade route may be if they'd like to avoid those areas.
Is there any concern, though, that, for people that do cross the line and violate the law, if that occurs? And I mean, Milwaukee's got a violent crime problem like Chicago does, not as pronounced, but still significant. And as you said, you've got, and I mentioned behind enemy lines, these professional anarchist organizations that are essentially promoting violence or certainly lawlessness. Are you worried at all? Milwaukee County State's Attorney won't prosecute, will give these people a walk, and so you won't have the accountability you need to remove people who are breaking the law from the convention area.
There's always a question of what the district attorney, John Chisholm, for Milwaukee County will do, and that's where my hope is that his office will do the right thing. He's not running for re-election. One of his deputy district attorneys, Kent Laverne, will be taking over the office. He's running unopposed, and that will come in January. And so there will be some shakeup within that office, and my hope is that Kent also has that same philosophy that he'll ensure that those that break the law are held accountable, and we'll be working with District Attorney Chisholm to ensure that happens, as well as the Eastern District U.S. Attorney's Office, if any of those violations can be charged federally.
Thinking about the November election, we were talking about this with my newsman, Mike Scott, just before the break. He mentioned that the Fond du Lac County executive has raised the specter of bringing ballot drop boxes back. Is that the case? And since more generally, since Wisconsin was such a hot spot in terms of the administration of the election in 2020, what's your confidence level about the integrity of the election there this year?
So our Supreme Court, interestingly enough, about 2 years ago, we had a more conservative Supreme Court, and they disallowed drop boxes based on their review of statutes. And then 2 years later, the Supreme Court has taken a liberal turn, and they reversed that decision from only 2 years ago, where we're seeing this Wisconsin Supreme Court, which has gone very liberal, making these changes on cases that were just recently decided, including even changing the legislative maps that were only decided a few years ago as well. On Dropbox specifically, I haven't seen anything from our county executive here in Fond du Lac County on Dropboxes, but we know that they're legal. They're going to be used in the elections this year. And one of the challenges that we face in Wisconsin, we have a high concentration of liberal voters in Dane County, where Madison, Wisconsin is located, as well as in Milwaukee County. And so the left is able to mobilize their voters much more easily in those two areas. And we have many of our voters, conservative voters, that are in rural areas within Wisconsin. And so if you're living in Madison or Milwaukee, with the early voting periods that their clerks have, folks have the ability to go and vote much more easily than our conservative voters may have in rural areas. So that's an area that we have to figure out how to catch up and make sure that our rural voters have greater access to voting, because we have to use the same rules that the left is using if we're going to start winning elections. And so that's an area that we have to improve on.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if they're drop boxes, there's nothing that says Republicans can't use them too, right? I mean, it's sort of like the same conversation we had about vote by mail programs and the like. We have to have the infrastructure to take advantage of the rules of the game as they're laid out.
Exactly. And if we don't, it's like doing these elections with one arm tied behind our back. And one of the nice things, people, I think, understandably have a concern if they put their ballot in a box or they put it in the mail. You never know what will happen. We see some of those horror stories with the post office where ballots are found or they're not delivered on time. One thing voters can do in Wisconsin, if they submit their ballot through absentee by mail, they can check to see if it's been received or not to make sure that their clerk has their ballot. So there are some safeguards if somebody wants to monitor their ballot that they've submitted by mail, because we need. And one of the other things we've been seeing for absentee voting, where it's not always something that's popular to do for conservatives. And for me, if you want to go and vote on election day, we're happy to have you do that, but maybe help get some of your friends and family or neighbors who don't always vote to get them to vote by absentee or early vote, because we're banking those votes, and it's a lot cheaper for us to spend campaign money targeting those voters who have registered to get their absentee ballot to help get that ballot back in than it is waiting to try and spend that money for people that are voting on election day. We can target that money much more efficiently, and so it can also help our candidates that are running for legislative and statewide offices to be more successful.
Eric Toney is the Fond du Lac County District Attorney up there north of the Cheddar Curtain in Wisconsin. Eric Toney, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks so much for having me. Have a great weekend.
You too. Good luck at the convention. Have fun. And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
It is no coincidence that our present troubles parallel and are proportionate to the intervention and intrusion in our lives that result from unnecessary and excessive growth of government. It is time for us to realize that we're too great a nation to limit ourselves to small dreams. We're not, as some would have us believe, doomed to an inevitable decline. I do not believe in a fate that will fall on us no matter what we do. I do believe in a fate that will fall on us if we do nothing. So with all the creative energy at our command, let us begin an era of national renewal. Let us renew our determination, our courage, and our strength. and let us renew our faith and our hope.
This moment in American history has been brought to you by Earthworks. To learn more today, visit them at earthworksinc.com.
What if I told you you can save a baby's life for just $28? Well, it's true. Preborn is a ministry doing just that with the help of people like you by offering free ultrasound sessions to pregnant girls and women who otherwise might choose to end their pregnancy. We know that pregnant girls and women who can see their babies on ultrasound are far more likely to choose life. Your gift today can save babies' lives. Just $28 can give a mother the chance to see the truth of the baby that is growing inside her. $140 can do this for 5 girls and women. Whether you want to save one baby or 5 or hundreds, that opportunity is just a click or phone call away. Call 833-850-BABY. That's 833-850-2229. Or go online to 560theanswer.com/preborn.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 7:07, we'll talk to Drew Holden, managing editor at American Compass, about the Bolsheviks versus the Mensheviks and who was collaborating with said Bolsheviks wittingly right up until they joined the Mensheviks, if you can follow that. But now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
The coroner IDs a teen killed in a shooting involving an off-duty deputy in Elgin. Illinois Republican leaders are gathering to choose a successor for Don Tracy. 3 teens are killed in a UTV crash in Shelby County. WIND Chicago News Times, 7 o'clock.
Business as usual. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Biden gets his daily briefing this morning, then heads to Michigan for a campaign event after saying repeatedly at his first solo news conference of the year, wrapping up a NATO summit in D.C., that he's the most qualified person for the job and the most qualified to beat Donald Trump in November.
Running for a second term, the president says, is not about his legacy.
And because, look, I got more work to do. We got more work to finish. There's so much, we made so much progress. Think about it.
Dismissing concerns from a growing number of Democrats urging him to drop out of the race, President Biden says he's unlikely to change his mind.
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win.
But the president says no one and no poll is saying that. In Washington, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Nevertheless, it's now 18 Democrats in Congress saying the president should let somebody else be the nominee. South Carolina Senate Republican Lindsey Graham on Fox.
We need the president of the United States to take a neurological exam, and here's why he won't. He will fail it.
The president says tests as recently as February show that he's in good shape neurologically. Former President Trump's legal team has filed for the dismissal of his criminal indictment and conviction in New York, saying last week's Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity means some of the evidence should not have been allowed. A heat wave in the West lingers on. More than a dozen deaths in Santa Clara County, California this month are being investigated as heat-related.
Valley Health System ER physician Grant Lipman says the body's inability to cool can lead to heat stress and heat stroke.
When people walk out into these really intense temperatures, one of the body's reaction is that you have a shunting of blood from the core to the periphery to try to cool down.
County officials say the need now is to raise awareness in older residents or those with small children.
KTVU TV's Jesse Gary. There are still more than 1 million power outages in Texas since Hurricane Beryl Monday. At least 2 flood deaths are reported in Vermont. America's listening to Fox News.
64 degrees. Skies are mostly clear at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott.
Charlie
5
Kirk
wounded in a shooting early this morning in the Lawndale neighborhood. It occurred around 12:20 this morning. All were transported to Mount Sinai Hospital. A 25-year-old woman said to be in critical condition. Loved ones of a person from Chicago who went missing in the Bahamas last month are demanding more answers.
2 years ago, while birthing you, doesn't compare to the pain I feel on today with you missing out of our lives.
Taylor Casey went missing on June 19. The Royal Bahamas Police Force continues to investigate. Republican leaders are meeting today to choose a successor for former Illinois Republican Chairman Don Tracy. Among those seeking to replace him, Palatine Township Committeeman Aaron Del Mar, Kathy Salvi of Mundelein, and State Rep John Cabello of McChesney Park. An investigation by the Cook County Sheriff's Office led to a bust of a large-scale retail theft operation, recovering millions of dollars in stolen merchandise.
It's Prada, it's Lululemon, it's Louis Vuitton, I think Nike, Adidas, Gucci.
Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart. A woman is charged after Marengo police say she intentionally struck a construction worker on Route 20. This week, the worker was taken to a trauma center in Rockford with what are believed to be non-life-threatening injuries. West Aurora High School played host to its 24th annual Battle of the Big Butts. It's not what you think. It's a strength, speed, and endurance contest for Chicago area high school football offensive and defensive linemen. Sam Walton plays up front for Glenbard East in Lombard.
Really measures like your strength and stuff, so like really get so you can like tell how much you need to get better and see how much stronger you can get.
But the tractor tire flip, the medicine ball toss, and 40-yard dash showcase the speed, strength, and agility of the big guys up front and signals the start of the summer high school football training window. The start of school, the regular season, are not that far away. Cubs beat Baltimore 8-0. White Sox take on the Pirates tonight. And the Bulls tip off Summer League NBA schedules when they play Milwaukee tomorrow. The news, a service of Crosscom Public Adjusters. If your home or business has an insurance claim, Crosscom will help you get what you need and have coming to you. They've helped thousands. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
This week on The Hill is the best way to get informed on everything going on with Congress. Hosted by Tony Perkins and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
What President Biden is engaging in is lawlessness. What's happened with the open border policy is they've allowed everybody in. By our count, it may be as many 16 million illegal aliens.
Stay informed and become a regular listener. This week on The Hill, Sundays at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, this is Rhett Rasmussen of BestHotGrill.com. You've heard about our Solaire infrared grills at BestHotGrill.com, but did you know we also make the best gas logs for your fireplace? You've probably seen Rasmussen gas logs and fireballs on TV and in the movies. We've got sizes to fit all fireplaces, styles to fit every decor, and we even do custom designs for large and unusual fireplaces. Lighting these logs is as easy as pushing a button. Realistic Rasmussen gas logs look great even when the fire is off. For regions prone to power outages, gas logs are an excellent source of emergency heat with no electricity required. We've been making them since the 50s, so you can buy a Rasmussen gas log with confidence. So go to BestHotGrill.com to find the products you need to keep you warm inside and outside of your home while eating great grilled food. Learn more at BestHotGrill.com. That's BestHotGrill.com, BestHotGrill.com.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Hi, I'm Donna, and I love taking Balance of Nature. It makes me feel sparkly every single day. It's just an amazing product.
I'm Rick. I'm in the best shape of my life. I play a lot of golf. I work out and ride my bike. I'm 63 and I can still almost hit a golf ball 300 yards. I mean, when I'm in the gym, I can do 90-pound dumbbells. That's what I did when I was young. As long as I'm living, I'll keep taking my Balance of Nature.
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Don't miss out. This offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
7:07, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Windy City Safes, Chicagoland's only Liberty Safe dealer. With Liberty Safes, you're not just getting a safe, you're getting peace of mind. Visit the Niles showroom. Call 224-LOCKBOX or online at windycitysafes.com. The Kennedy at 31 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Stevenson is stop and go, central into Kedzie. Dan Ryan express lanes jammed up Pershing into the Stevenson. Slow traffic on the tri-state northbound between Roosevelt and the Ike. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Sunny to partly cloudy, humid day. The high today 85. It'll be clear tonight, low 67. Partly sunny, a thunderstorm around tomorrow, the high 88. Sunny to partly cloudy Sunday, a thunderstorm in spots, much hotter, the high at 94. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Partly cloudy and 65 at O'Hare, Lake Michigan water temp 71. Your next news update 7:30, and Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and just Dan. Amy's off today, so it's just little me. Our friend John Cass, johncastnews.com, has a piece out about what I call the Bolsheviks versus the Mensheviks in the over the question of whether or not to save General Secretary Joe. The Bolsheviks obviously want to save him, and the Mensheviks want to move him out. And, of course, a lot of people subscribe to the opinion from John that I'm about to recount, that Obama is the master manipulator pulling the strings behind the scenes. John writes, the Obama-led coup against Democrat President Biden, even the witless MSNBC host Josh Scarborough called out Obama for his political coup against Biden. Biden himself says the pressure on him to withdraw comes from the elites, which is a clear reference not to Trumpian popular sentiment, but to the guy who cut his political teeth backstabbing his way through the sewers of Chicago politics. Here's how Biden spells Obama, E-L-I-T-E-S. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's true. But the whole idea that as John writes, that Obama is a silky operator. That's what he calls him, silky operator. He is a master composer. But if that's true, how do we have such a cacophony? This was orchestrated from the outset, and this is the composition you produced? I'm supposed to be impressed? I know people know. Yeah, George Clooney is Obama talking. I got it. And Scarborough and these, yeah, I got it. And Obama's operatives, and now they're out publicly saying the same thing. John Favreau, Obama's speechwriter, saying, yeah, I saw him at the Clooney event, and George Clooney's description of him not being the Joe of 2020, much less 2010, and so forth, blah, blah, blah. So now, yeah, it's just safe for them, some of them to come out and follow Axelrod's lead in sort of raising the question. Obama, the silky himself, the Mozart of the American deep state, writes John. But is he? I hate to part company with John here. So, I mean, I agree with him that Obama is involved and he's part of the Mensheviks, perhaps the leader of the Mensheviks, trying to move Biden out. But that he's silky, he's the Mozart of the American deep state, then how do we have such a cacophony? If they knew this about Joe Biden, for as long as we suspect they did, for as long as people have been talking about his obvious mental decline, which is at least since 2020. Actually, you go back to White House Correspondents' Dinners, and you had Joel McHale back in the second Obama term making fun of Joe Biden and his I don't know, vacuity at least, or if not, his mental infirmity. So there was recognition. They knew. So if you knew and you didn't think that he was going to make the finish line, and or you just wanted to replace him just because Kamala was your pick for VP and now it's time for Kamala, let's move her in, then why did you not manipulate the rules in the primary such that there were debates back then? If this was all orchestrated to expose, they moved up the debates. This was a fifth column action inside Camp Biden to have him fall on his face in the debate so that they could usher in the replacement before the convention and so on. Well, then, if that's the case, and you knew that this was somebody who couldn't stand the scrutiny, the back and forth of a debate, then why don't you run somebody credible, or even just take Dean Phillips as credible enough and put him on a debate stage in the primary, so you could have dispatched Biden then, and maybe got someone more substantial to step in, more viable in a general election with a longer runway. This doesn't read like Mozart's music to me. For more on all of this, pleased to be joined by Drew Holden. He is the managing editor at the American Compass, and you can read his musings at drewholden.substack.com. Drew, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Dan, pleasure's mine, sir. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, pleasure. So, I mean, the co-conspirators here are named and unnamed and plentiful. Yeah. What is your take? And maybe this is deeper in the weeds than you want to get, but what is your take on sort of Obama world clashing with Biden world? And Biden world at this stage is basically his family and a couple of longtime advisors like Ron Klain, isn't it?
Right. It's pretty skinny. I mean, at this point, I think, unfortunately for them, they've kind of hit the American people with exactly what Biden's cognitive ability is. I think now on too many occasions for them to be able to continue the charade that he somehow has the capacity to be operating as the leader of the free world. And so I think it is. I'm sympathetic to the idea that Obama is kind of working, and him and his camp are working to get him out. But I think at a higher level, it's pretty obvious to a lot of people, Democrats, independents, Republicans, elected leaders left and right, that Biden just doesn't have the mental juice to get it done. And if that's the case, then I think they're hitting a panic button rather than being a little bit more coy about all this.
Well, the interesting thing is, I mean, something like 71 to 75% of the American public thinks he doesn't have the capacity for the job. He can't serve another 4 terms. And right. And the polling has him at 46% recently in terms of the popular vote. So there's a significant segment of the American electorate that is saying, I don't think he has the capacity for the job, and I'm voting for him anyway, like Joy Reid at MSNBC.
Yeah, she said she would vote for him even if he were in a coma.
Correct.
Recently, and it was funny too, because it wasn't actually on her show. She recorded this very bizarre live video of her standing outside yelling at people about how they have to vote for Biden even if he's on death's doorstep.
Well, right, but I mean, but so I guess my point is, what does that say about the composition of the electorate and the dislike, the intensity of the dislike of Trump combined with, I don't know, the good feelings for Biden? I mean, to the extent that somebody is going to backfill that position, notably Kamala Harris, because that's almost who it has to be at this point. Yeah. And she is going to fare any better. I mean, there are different arguments you can make. I understand that, but first of all, it's completely unclear that she is a better matchup. And secondly, why would Joe Biden defer to her? And by extension, Obama, and by extension, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's kind of the most interesting part of this intra-democratic rivalry right now is that the machinations of the Democratic Party to get Harris on the ticket have left them saddled with the reality that they have named her publicly the heir apparent, right? And I think it's hard to sort of wiggle out of that once she's the VP on the ticket. They spent years and years and years leading up to the election and after the election proclaiming that she is the future, right? And I think one of the big and interesting sort of points made at Biden's press conference last night was him serving in this sort of bridge capacity, right, to move from the old guard of Democrats to the new guard, and having this heir apparent, Vice President Harris waiting in the wings. And so now they kind of have to deal with the reality that they've created. They've got to lay in this bed that they've made for themselves. And I think you're right. I think it's almost inescapable that they have to put her on the top of the ticket, or else they'll have to face the wrath of all of the people who they promised, particularly women voters, particularly black voters. And I think you talk about the contingent of American voters who have said, yeah, I don't think Biden has the mental juice to get it done, but I'm going to vote for him anyway. I think a lot of those votes are probably votes for Kamala Harris, right? And whether or not those are uninterrogated votes because she hasn't faced the scrutiny of being a national presidential candidate, like I will definitely grant. But I think that's probably what helps get him to that low bar of the 45% or so.
Well, I think they're largely votes against Trump. That I will vote for a houseplant over Trump, and we've seen this before. I mean, we saw this in the midterms with John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. I mean, basically, he basically had debate performances that mirror Joe Biden's, and he wins the Senate race. So. I mean, there's a certain mentality among the base of that party now, which is I will vote for a houseplant over Trump or a Trump-backed candidate.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think we've seen, particularly in the last few months, a real fervor among the press writing about how awful and evil Trump is going to be, right? And so you've got all of this kind of hand waving about Project 2025 and the threat of authoritarianism and all of these, I think on their face, pretty bogus concepts, right? And it's also, I think it takes a real level of delusion to be able to look at the fact that the Democrats are prosecuting Trump at the federal level in a number of states. They're trying to put their chief political rival behind bars, and yet they're saying there's rising authoritarianism from the other guys, and so you have to vote for our house plant or else you're encouraging that.
Well, see,
I listened to CNN after Biden's press conference yesterday, and that's what they were saying.
Yeah, and see, here's the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks. I mean, the Bolsheviks, nicely encapsulated by, for example, Jasmine Crockett from Dallas, who's one of the socialist Spice Girls. This is her yesterday.
Right now, what they are trying to do is institute Nazism 2.0 in the United States, and guess what? It's going to be us that's going to be on the receiving end of all of it. So I could go on and on and on about the terrible things that are in there, but the basis of it, they're saying it has to be Christianity, and the fact is everything has to be really Christo-fascism.
Yeah, it's Nazism 2.0. It's Christo-fascism. I don't remember Hitler being a great Christian, but maybe my memory's a bit hazy on that. But so that's what they're doing. This is their play is it's Biden or whoever we say. We'll keep General Secretary Joe because we'll be able to pull the strings if we're the ones that pull him in. We'll keep him. The way that we win is by making Trump box office poison. You have to just pound against Christianity, pound against white heterosexual men, pound against Trump as the manifestation of all that is wrong in the world. Meanwhile, George Clooney's in the New York Times representing the Mensheviks, saying, let's have an idea exchange about the best green new energy program. It's completely devoid of political reality. George Clooney's sort of kumbaya approach. This is what's actually going on, which is why that small band of Bolsheviks may be able to keep Joe Biden in the race.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And, I think a lot of people, and unfortunately a lot of American voters, have gotten to a point where they're very comfortable with whatever is actually happening behind the scenes of the White House. I think it's a real stretch for even the most, credulous person to look at what's happening now and saying Joe Biden, with his function at his current level, is pulling the strings. He's operating. He is the one who's calling these shots. And I think a lot of people and a lot of elected Democrats are looking at this and saying this is okay, right? If Ron Klain or whomever, Pete Buttigieg is making these decisions, I'm fine with what's happening now. And if I'm not super fine with it, I'm too scared of the alternative, or I'm too convinced that other people ought to be scared of whatever the alternative is, because it'll keep us in power and not let the evil orange man back into it.
Right. And by the way, I mean, to some extent, maybe they think they can slingshot their way past some of these other uncomfortable matters, the things we're not talking about as we're talking about Joe Biden's mental capacity, cognitive ability for the job. Although I can't imagine they want us talking about that either. I'll let the nation focus on that. But it seems like it's marginally better, maybe, according to some of the polling, than talking about what's happening at the border, talking about all but 5 Democrats voting against legislation that would prohibit people in this country illegally from voting in federal elections, which just happened this week. I mean, all that stuff is relegated to, page 23B of people's attention span when it comes to this race, because it's just all focused on the palace intrigue and Joe Biden.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why that's so attractive is because the wool is off the eyes of the American people. Everybody saw the debate, and if they didn't see the debate, they saw the commentary of the debate after the fact, right? And so I think it's a lot. It's gotten to a point where they fought really, really hard. They fought tooth and nail, right? We had the cheap fakes. We had the claims that all these videos about Biden are lies or they've been clipped or edited or somehow they're misleading. And they lost that battle, and now it's out there. And I think because it's already out there, it becomes a lot easier to talk about because everyone understands that the President of the United States' mental capacity is exceedingly limited, far more limited than we were led to believe by the press and by the White House. And the world has kept turning, right? There's a lot of other problems underneath that. But I think it's easier for them to hang their hats on that than have to get into the policy failures that are accelerating.
Yeah, and then you have Kirby and KJP continue to recite their lines, and the press corps is split between those pretending to be aghast and they can't believe what they saw, and those that are Biden loyalists and want him to stay and are trying to prop him up in those press conferences. Very interesting. So I mean, the press corps is part of their party. So like I said earlier in the show, they're split too. There's Mensheviks and there's Bolsheviks in that press corps.
Yeah, and it's funny too, right? Because during the debate, you saw there were a handful of outlets, Axios, CBS News, and NBC, who all ran stories that say, well, Biden has a cold.
Yes.
Before the debate was even over, right? Like the Biden campaign put out this preposterous lie that the reason that he wasn't able to form sentences was that he had a cold and maybe he had jet lag from travel 2 weeks before. And you saw what was truly a loyalist press repeat those pretty bald-faced lies. And it's been interesting in the last couple of days to see that versus the outlets who are saying, CNN had this really self-flagellating piece about how we should have seen this coming. We should have covered Biden's mental decline better. And the New York Times was up with this scoop that I'm sure they just got from all of the staff about how these lapses are more frequent, right? And so you really do see this sort of schism in between how they want to handle the situation with Biden.
I'm surprised Biden actually hasn't picked up on what Tony Fauci said and it isn't doing like a barnstorming tour with Tony Fauci saying, maybe you took an antihistamine and, that's not the Joe Biden I know. It's like those are the guys that could actually prop him up within the electorate. And one Tony Fauci is worth all to that electorate is worth all the no-name congressmen that speak out against him. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Drew Holden, managing editor at American Compass. Find his writings at drewholden.substack.com. Drew, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
The pleasure's mine, Dan. Thanks so much.
Thank you. He joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
NYPD officer Jonathan Diller's tragic story made national headlines this year. Now, Jonathan was shot and killed by a career criminal during a traffic stop. Jonathan, who's just 31 years old, leaves behind his wife Stephanie and one-year-old son Ryan. Now, nothing will ever replace the loss of a husband and a father, but the Tunnel to Towers Foundation was able to pay off the mortgage on the Diller family's home. Please commit to $11 a month. Go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ziprecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Hi, I'm Donna, and I love taking Balance of Nature. It makes me feel sparkly every single day. It's just an amazing product.
I'm Rick. I'm in the best shape of my life. I play a lot of golf. I work out and ride my bike. I'm 63 and I can still almost hit a golf ball 300 yards. I mean, when I'm in the gym, I can do 90-pound dumbbells. That's what I did when I was young. As long as I'm living, I'll keep taking my Balance of Nature.
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Don't miss out. This offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited-time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only two good things about aging: wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551. 1551.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Paul Jenkins, owner of Bancroft Architects and Engineers, a service-disabled veteran-owned small business providing design solutions for clients, including the VA. When looking for a trusted banking partner, Bancroft was lucky to find that partner in Signature Bank in 2015. With Signature, personal service goes beyond a login and a PIN number. My staff and I have the comfort of knowing that we're dealing with real people who know our business and care about us as individuals. Signature helped finance our new state-of-the-art facility, and Bancroft looks forward to further expanding business opportunities for disabled veterans and historically disadvantaged communities.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
For anyone with everyday aches and pains, I've got a question. What are you missing out on? Probably a lot. So let me tell you about Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. It doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In about 3 weeks, you'll discover what it's like to feel better. Go to relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4RELIEF.
Nowadays, $20 barely gets you a burger and fries, or maybe a quarter tank of gas. You know what it will get you, though? For just $20 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and plenty of 5G data from Pure Talk. You get the same 5G network as one of the legacy providers, but at half the price with Pure Talk. Plus, dial pound 250 and say keyword spend less to save an additional 50% off your first month. Make the switch today so you can actually afford that burger and fries. Dial pound 250 and say keyword spend less.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 7:37, do our NATO allies really want Joe Biden to win? Is that what they said at the summit, that Joe, you got to win, like the president alleged they said? We'll tackle that with Dominic Green from the Washington Examiner at 7:37. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
68 degrees at 7:32. Vermont residents have begun cleaning up this morning from flooding that led to frantic evacuations, knocked out bridges, and damaged numerous homes, all part of the remnants of Hurricane Beryl. One person confirmed dead, 2 others missing following a tour helicopter crash off Kauai's Napali coast. happened around 1:30 in the afternoon yesterday. Former President Obama and Nancy Pelosi held private meetings about the future of President Biden's 2024 campaign yesterday. Meantime, Biden and members of his team have been on a sprint trying to convince lawmakers and donors he's still up for the job. He continues those efforts today in Michigan, that after defending his decision to stay in the presidential election.
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there.
Biden arguing he's the most qualified person to strengthen NATO and protect U.S. allies like Ukraine. A suspect in custody after a Texas detective was shot and killed early Thursday in what authorities now call an ambush in Harris County. Fulton County, Georgia's election board is bringing in independent monitors to observe voting operations in the general election. Members late last night narrowly approving the measure. It goes to the State Board of Elections for a green light. 5 were wounded in a shooting early this morning in Lawndale. Shooting took place around 12:20 in the morning. All transported to Mount Sinai Hospital, a 25-year-old woman in critical condition. Another Illinois lawmaker is calling on President Joe Biden to end his re-election bid following a poor debate performance last month. Chicago area Rep. Brad Schneider called on Biden to step down, joining freshman Congressman Eric Sorensen, who represents the Quad Cities, and Rockford, who also says it's time for Biden to step down. A Chrysler plant near Belvedere is set to receive $334 million in federal funding. The investment will help try and convert the facility to build electric vehicles and components. The plant's conversion could restore hundreds of jobs at that plant. The Cozy Corner restaurant in Oak Park is shutting down later this month after 65 years in business. The breakfast eatery shutting down July 28th after a rent dispute with the landlord. The News is a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. Lower.com, equal housing lender, and MLS 1124061. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher says times have changed.
People don't trust the election. People don't trust the ballot counters. People don't trust the process. And I kind of think it's my job to point out that we have got procedures in place that are far different from 2020.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Building owners, property managers, and chief engineers. This one's for you.
Hello, this is Bruce Diedrich with Waukegan Roofing, your professional roofer. Everything starts on top. Your investment, your building, and everything in it is protected by your roof. It needs to be in good shape. That's where we can help. If it needs to be repaired or replaced, or you think it might, call us. Let's find out. Here's the number.
847-623-1625.
At Waukegan Roofing, our employees are union-trained roofing professionals with OSHA safety training certifications and have thorough knowledge and expertise regarding the various roofing systems we sell, maintain, and install. We know commercial roofing systems because that's all we do. Over 110 years of doing commercial roofs. Waukegan Roofing has the slogan,
roofs you can rely on.
Because you can. Here's the number to call,
847-623-1625.
And get the info at waukeganroofing.com. waukeganroofing.com.
It is no coincidence that our present troubles parallel and are proportionate to the intervention and intrusion in our lives that result from unnecessary and excessive growth of government. It is time for us to realize that we're too great a nation to limit ourselves to small dreams. We're not, as some would have us believe, doomed to an inevitable decline. I do not believe in a fate that will fall on us no matter what we do. I do believe in a fate that will fall on us if we do nothing. So with all the creative energy at our command, let us begin an era of national renewal. Let us renew our determination, our courage, and our strength. And let us renew our faith and our hope.
This moment in American history has been brought to you by Earthworks. To learn more today, visit them at earthworksinc.com.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call now at 800-533-6605 for a free consultation. For 17 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and a Christian-owned company. Don't get stuck in the endless cycle of payments. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Christian-owned Total Financial Freedom now at 800-533-6605. That's 800-533-6605. 800-533-6605.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
7:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is a service of Windy City Safes, Chicagoland's only Liberty Safe dealer. With Liberty Safes, you're not just getting a safe, you're getting peace of mind. Visit the Niles showroom, 224 Lockbox, or online at windycitysafes.com. On the roads, not too bad this morning. Travel times on the way up, though, on the inbound Edens at 20 Lake Cook Road to the junction. 48 in on the Kennedy, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Due to an earlier accident, the inbound Stevenson is jammed up between the Tri-State and the Des Plaines River Bridge. Outbound Stevenson jammed up right at California with an accident blocking a left-hand lane. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Sunny to partly cloudy and humid, high 85 today. Clear and a little more humid overnight, low 67. 68 and mostly sunny right now. Next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. No Amy today, just me. So the big NATO summit and big boy conference following the NATO summit, Biden last night. Seems appropriate since he created NATO in 1949, so I understand from him. And he said, look, all these NATO allies, the heads of these states, saying, Joe, you got to win. They're not saying, Joe, you got to go. They're not concerned about Joe's leadership and thus the leadership of the free world, saying you got to win. That's what he said. And so his job on Thursday night was to reassure our NATO allies, all rooting for Joe. And I'm sure some of them are. That's not the same thing as saying that they have confidence in him. Reassure them and reassure the American people that he's up to the task. Here's how he does it, he said.
Sir, how can you reassure the American people that you won't have more bad nights, whether they be on a debate stage or on some matter of foreign policy?
Well, I tell you what, the best way to assure them is the way I assure myself. And that is, am I getting the job done? Am I getting the job done? Can you name me somebody who's got more major piece of legislation passed in 3.5 years? I created 2,000 jobs just last week.
I love that. One of my favorite lines is politicians talking about all the jobs they create. And both parties do this. I can't stand it. I created 2,000 jobs last week. How'd you do it? Well, I'd love to hear the story. Please, details. Well, it didn't reassure people very much, and this, of course, these cuts are the leads coming out of the press conference when he can't remember who the president of Ukraine is. He can't even remember who his vice president is.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
That wasn't uncomfortable. And he followed that up with his gem. At least he, with respect to Zelensky, he was actually able to hear himself when he said President Putin, or somebody screamed from off stage. I'm not sure which.
What concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
Let's start there with Dominic Green, columnist for the Washington Examiner, contributor to the Wall Street Journal, and fellow of the Royal Historical Society as well. Dominic, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hello, Dan.
So Joe Biden's fan club there, all of the heads of state of our NATO allies, of America's NATO allies, how do you think they felt after that performance? Reassured?
I should think they felt ashamed and alarmed, ashamed for their part in this ongoing farce, and alarmed because this was an attempt to send a strong and unified image of NATO and the American-led order, and instead it's an absurdity. And these foreign leaders knowingly are playing along and misleading their own publics, if anyone's able to actually believe it, because we all now see it with our own eyes. The President of the United States is manifestly unfit for the office.
And the other thing, too, is, I mean, as much as Trump is destructive of NATO, he worked into the conversation all he's done to advance the strength and increase the membership of the alliance, and how destructive Trump is, and he won't guarantee that he'll support NATO, and so on and so forth. Yet this year, 24 of NATO allies are on track to meet or exceed the 2% of GDP each country committed a decade ago to spend on defense. Canada's the only one, or one of the few, that isn't close. But the pressure Trump put on NATO allies to live up to their commitments, that has borne fruit, and that's actually strengthened the alliance, because he compelled our America's allies to pony up.
Yeah, it's a simple matter of fact that when Trump came in, hardly any of NATO's members were paying that 2% of GDP on defense. Britain and Poland and Estonia, I believe, at one point were the only countries to be doing this. And now they're saying, as you said, two-thirds of them, something like 24, 25 countries are now paying that. And others, such as Britain, now talking about getting up to 3% even by the end of the decade. There is absolutely no question that all of this is a result of Donald Trump frightening them out of their lives, really, by the prospect of withdrawing the American umbrella. And this has nothing to do with Joe Biden at all. What does have to do with the Biden administration is expanding NATO to include Finland and Sweden, which in fact vastly increases the American commitment to defend Europe at a time when many people are pointing out that a much more serious threat to America's position in the world is coming from the Pacific, not from old Europe.
Speaking of Britain, I mean, the results in Western Europe, we want to talk about that. I mean, we talked to you about it in advance of the elections. It was completely anticipated that conservatives would take it on the chin, as they did in the UK. But maybe a little bit less unanticipated that Nigel Farage would have such a good night. So, what is the status of the Conservative Party in England after that election?
Well, the Conservative Party is in complete shambolic disarray. This was the worst defeat they've ever had. It calls into question what kind of party they will be in the future. They have a choice now. They can either keep on this track of basically being an alternative version of Labour. We have two centrist parties, both believing in high taxes and slow growth and wokeism and so on, or they can actually go back to being the Conservative Party of Margaret Thatcher, which, judging from this election, is actually what people want. The Reform Party, which was really invented out of thin air as a vehicle for Nigel Farage, Mr. Brexit. The Reform Party got 14% of the votes. At short notice, they didn't even have enough people to field as candidates in all the constituencies. So you can imagine how well they would have done with a proper ground game and proper investment and a plan, which is now actually what they're working on. So the Conservatives have a choice. They're either going to be rendered into this sort of boutique party for the centre-right, or they can turn rightwards, return to their roots and their principles, and probably sweep the board quite easily. Because this was a victory for Labour, because the public is disgusted at the way the Conservatives have betrayed them on various things, on the economy, on immigration, on everything, really. This was a washing of the hands. It was not an embrace of Labour, who in the last week have started handing out citizenship to illegal immigrants, opening the prisons, and saying they're not going to drill for any more oil. So the lights will go up quite soon if they actually stick to this course.
Well, so are they going to try to fold Farage in, or is he a transitory figure and there's some new generation of conservative leadership in the offing?
Well, we've got a bit of both, because there are some very good young people, all of them incidentally descended from recent immigrants into the UK. Suella Braverman, Kemi Badenoch, Priti Patel, they're all potential party leaders. They're all Thatcherites, and they easily could do without him in a way, because they would be on his turf. But in terms of this populist right swing for Farage, it's very much about him and what he wants to do. And he has been, this is the third party in a decade that he's effectively invented on the back of an envelope. You have to wonder if ultimately he wants to take over the Conservative Party. And there are people on the party's right who would like him to join them. And either of those things would leave us with a Conservative Party that looks like the parties of the right in Europe, or even the Republicans in the US. So it's a question of how we get there. But I do believe this will happen by public demand.
And the impact of the maneuvering that Macron did in France to stave off the Conservatives there.
Well, this is a real self-inflicted injury. Macron lost control of the parliament in the 2022 elections. And after these European elections, in which Marine Le Pen and the National Rally, the populist right party, came out first, he called these snap elections to try and catch everybody off balance and reassert his control. But the opposite has happened. Marine Le Pen won the first round of the French vote, and then in the second round, Macron's party basically colluded with the Islamists and communists and environmental fanatics of the left-wing alliance. They stood down each other's candidates to make sure that Le Pen wouldn't win. And it worked in the sense that Le Pen's party came third, but now Macron's party, not the biggest in the parliament, and are having to negotiate with the communists. And I'm not exaggerating when I say the communists. Their leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, is actually a communist and is now talking about bringing in a 90% taxation rate in France, talking about spending billions of euros that France simply doesn't have. And indeed, the markets are already starting to warn France that they may well, have a similar event to the one that happened in Britain, where Liz Truss became Prime Minister, tried to spend lots of money she didn't have, and you were warned, well, you're going to go bankrupt, we're going to pull all our investments. So France is really teetering, and Macron has played a major role in undermining it.
The conventional wisdom is the center is crumbling, and this is very concerning because it harkens back to the rise of totalitarian regimes in the first part of the 20th century. But, if the left wants to throw in with the neo-Marxists and be revolutionaries in places like France or Britain, for that matter, they can do that. And then you can have alternative examples, too, perhaps more moves like Argentina with Milei. Next year, for example, Canada has a presidential election, and Pierre Poilievre is looking pretty good against Macron, and that would represent, I think, based on what I've seen from Poilievre, something on the order of a Milei victory in Canada. So, if that's the way that the West wants to do it, is present these sort of extreme, I wouldn't say extreme because I don't think being free market oriented is extreme, but these stark contrasts in terms of how to order a free society, then everybody can chart their course.
Yeah, and it's the contrast that people think is extreme. I don't believe there's anything particularly ideologically extreme about any of these people. I think the reason that they're doing so well at the ballot box is because they represent the center of public opinion. And it so happens that the people who run things, and I say that, I don't mean our elected leaders, because they have to respond to public opinion. I'm talking about the vast bureaucracies which actually run our states. The people who run things have drifted far to the left, and every time somebody objects, they're called fascist or racist or far right. But it's simply not true. And as you're saying, the real radicalization which has occurred is within our institutions, and it is the hard left which has taken them over by degrees over decades, because they couldn't win at the ballot box, because ideas of individual freedom, free markets, law and liberty, because these things are actually quite popular with voters. Because of that, the left had to take over the institutions. And it's going to take decades to winkle them out, and it's going to be a long struggle. And what we're seeing now is the early phases of it.
Dominic Green is a columnist for the Washington Examiner, contributor to the Wall Street Journal, and fellow of the Royal Historical Society. Dominic Green, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
And Dominic Green joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential. But finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Choosing where to send your kids to school is one of the most important decisions you make as parents. Even as this school year has come to an end, you might be thinking about where to send your kids to school in the fall. You need to know that private school might be an option for you and your family thanks to our friends at Half Price Schools. At halfpriceschools.com, you'll find many different private schools from around Chicagoland offering a full year of tuition for half of the normal price. And you can take advantage of this great opportunity. It's simple. Find a private school near you, purchase the tuition voucher, and prepare to send your child off to school this fall. HalfPriceSchools.com has schools across Chicagoland, including Ravenswood Christian in Chicago, Christian Liberty in Arlington Heights, St. Peter Lutheran in Schaumburg, St. Andrew's Lutheran in Park Ridge, and many more. So don't delay. Next school year will be here before you know it. Visit halfpriceschools.com today. Do not wait. Visit halfpriceschools.com today. That's halfpriceschools.com.
Support our police and hire the police to personally protect you. You've watched the news. Rising crime has been affecting our everyday lives in Illinois more and more these days. Blue Star Security can protect you, your business, or your place of worship. Blue Star Security is the only security company in Chicago with over 900 off-duty police officers, all W-2 employees.
I'm Anthony Varchetto, president of Blue Star Security and a 20-year law enforcement veteran. The Blue Star team is made up of over 900 state-certified active and retired law enforcement professionals. We serve businesses and private organizations with supply chain and special event security, and also protect our loved ones at places of worship and schools all across the Chicagoland area. Blue Star Security's technology allows mobilization of off-duty officers quickly and efficiently. Our primary mission is to provide unparalleled protective services for each assignment with integrity, while maintaining our commitment to community service in the Chicagoland area.
Visit online to schedule a free security consultation at bluestarsecuриtyllc.com. That's bluestarsecuриtyllc.com.
Jerry Padgett, the second enlisted in the U.S. Navy and deployed multiple times to Iraq and Afghanistan until Jerry was catastrophically injured in an improvised explosive device blast. Now, Jerry received a new smart home thanks to our friends at the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Now, the home is in the foundation's Let Us Do Good Village. It's in Florida, and Jerry now lives more independently thanks to the specially adaptive technologies. Commit to $11 a month, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only 2 good things about aging: wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, the U.S. Army characterizes pro-life organizations as terrorist organizations. That's at 8:08. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Another Illinois lawmaker calling for Joe Biden to step down. A Kankakee man facing drug charges, and the Cubs blow out the Orioles. WIND Chicago News Time, 8 o'clock.
It was better than the debate. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Biden takes questions for about an hour at a solo news conference in D.C. with one early gaffe.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she's not qualified to be president.
But he says he's staying in the race unless someone proves to him he can't beat Donald Trump in November. He says he's been putting himself out there since his poor debate performance.
Where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball? I mean, look, he's done virtually nothing.
The news conference was at the end of a NATO summit, and there were foreign policy questions where the president showed command of the facts. But last night, more Democrats in Congress, it's 18 now, say publicly he should drop out of the race. President Biden holds a campaign event in Michigan today. The Republican convention starts Monday in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Fox's Jessica Rosenthal on some of the people who will and won't be there.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is scheduled to speak, as is the mother of a woman murdered by an undocumented migrant. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is scheduled to speak, but Nikki Haley is not. She said she was not invited to the RNC, even after releasing her delegates. Her spokesman says it's up to former President Trump, who he wants at the convention. But Fox News Radio's Brian Kilmeade asked the former president if she might be invited.
You know, there was a lot of bad blood there. She stayed too long. She was being soundly defeated at every place, but she just wouldn't leave.
Kilmeade asked if she might help him with moderate voters, and the former president said no, because they will not end up going for President Biden. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
A new read on inflation, just out. Inflation at the wholesale level coming in higher than most economists expected. The Labor Department's Producer Price Index is up 2.6% year over year. It's the largest annual increase since March of 2023. Most other inflation indicators say it's cooling off. The Labor Department reports yesterday consumer prices fell 0.1% in June. America's listening to Fox News.
68 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. 5 wounded in a shooting early this morning in the Lawndale community. The shooting took place around 12:20 in the 1300 block of South Lawndale. A 25-year-old woman transported from the scene in critical condition, taken to Mount Sinai Hospital. Loved ones of a person from Chicago who went missing in the Bahamas last month want more answers.
The pain I felt 42 years ago while birthing you doesn't compare to the pain I feel on today with you missing out of our lives.
Taylor Casey went missing on June 19 in the Bahamas. Another Illinois lawmaker calling on President Joe Biden to end his re-election bid following a poor debate performance. Chicago area U.S. Rep. Brad Schneider called for Biden to step down yesterday. Meantime, Republican leaders are meeting today. They'll choose a successor for former Illinois Republican Chairman Don Tracy, who resigned last month. Those seeking to replace him include Committeeman Aaron Del Mar, Kathy Salvi of Mundelein, and State Rep. John Cabello of McChesney Park. Cubs beat the Orioles 8-0, while the White Sox look to get back in the win column when they host the Pirates tonight with Garrett Crochet on the hill. The news, the service of Del Bacchio Marchetti Group of At Properties, Christie's International Real Estate, experts in the northwest suburbs and Chicago. Call 708-828-0000, 828-0000. 8:03, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
J.P. Morgan Chase is reporting upbeat earnings helped by strong investment banking. Its revenue top forecast, though CEO Jamie Dimon is predicting that inflation and interest rates may stay higher than the market expects. Dimon says the risks include a changing geopolitical situation, which remains the most dangerous since World War II. Wells Fargo reported an upbeat quarter, but its forecast is cautious. The stock's losing ground. AT&T shares are down more than 2% after the telecom revealed in a government filing that hackers in April accessed and copied call logs containing records of customer calls and texts from 2022. AT&T is cooperating with the FBI, and it says one person has been apprehended. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jim Posola, invested in you.
AM 560 News Time is 8:05. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka sees good things.
The reality is they're losing control of the nation and your capacity to swallow the garbage they're trying to promote. It's a good thing, but only if you get engaged. Because in 4 months' time, if not you, then who? If not now, then when?
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
My name is Dr. Dave Anspaugh. I have co-authored a wellness textbook, which was the #1 bestseller. And I do about anything that I want to do. I still take care of my own lawn, and I go to the health club. We'll go 2-3 miles on the treadmill there. I've been taking Balance of Nature about 6 years. It has convinced me that it's a great product. I enjoy playing golf. I will go out there and go down to the green and go back and do it once or twice more. Seems like being retired, I've got more going on than I did when I was actually working. I stay active. You know, I do about anything I want to do. As long as I'm breathing the air, I'm going to be taking Balance of Nature.
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and get 50% off your first set as a preferred customer with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. While supplies last, go to balanceofnature.com and get this limited time offer by using discount code Chicago.
NYPD officer Jonathan Diller's tragic story made national headlines this year. Now, Jonathan was shot and killed by a career criminal during a traffic stop. Jonathan, who's just 31 years old, leaves behind his wife Stephanie and 1-year-old son Ryan. Now, nothing will ever replace the loss of a husband and a father, but the Tunnel to Towers Foundation was able to pay off the mortgage on the Diller family's home. Please commit to $11 a month. Go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
8:07, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and on the inbound Kennedy, we're up to 45 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Accident outbound Stevenson blocking 2 left-hand lanes between Western and Central. Stop-and-go traffic on the Tri-State. Slow traffic on the ramp to the outbound Eisenhower this morning. And delays as you hit the Reagan I-88. You're slowing up eastbound right at Roosevelt Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Here's Steve Williams.
Sunny to partly cloudy, humid day. The high today 85. It'll be clear tonight, low 67. Partly sunny, a thunderstorm around tomorrow. The high 88. Sunny to partly cloudy Sunday, a thunderstorm in spots. Much hotter. The high at 94. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
At O'Hare, mostly sunny in 68, mostly sunny in 72 at Midway, 66 in Kankakee, 64 in Morris, and 70 Lakefront. Your next news update, 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Scott Tucker Solutions and his show Retirement Decoded. Sunday mornings at 8. Learn more at scotttuckersolutions.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, it's Dan, and just Dan today. Amy is off. Is it time for the Republican Party, including Trump, to go on offense when it comes to freedom of religion and the defense of life? Is it time to go on offense yet? On offense to defend. I know that sounds a bit contradictory, but is it time to go on offense in promotion of the free exercise of one's conscience and the promotion of life? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. I say that because I don't think there's an appreciation for what is happening at the hands of the neo-Marxist left, the revolutionaries that dominate the Democrat Socialist Party. Give me an example of what I'm talking about, then let's discuss the scope of this at present a little bit. The statues outside of Holy Family Catholic Church in Queens that were beheaded recently, as reported by the ABC 7 affiliate in New York.
Top of your screen, a man gets out of the taxi he was driving and walks toward the statue. He stops to take off his shoe, which moments later he will use as a club.
And goes in front of the statue and starts hitting the face of St. Joseph, then attacks the Blessed Mother, and then attacks the face of the child Jesus.
And he kept pounding until the head of the figure meant to represent the child Jesus snapped off. This was the second time vandals have attacked statues at the church. Last year, someone ripped one meant to represent an angel from its pedestal. Father Sukiel watched the video of this attack after he noticed the damage.
My heart just broke. And of course, I'm asking the question, why? Why did this guy do this? Certainly, the statue was not in his way. It was very deliberate for him to do this. So the big question is why.
Is that a big question? With all due respect, Father, you're really curious about why? You don't know. You don't know why. A guy gets out of his cab, takes his shoe off, and beats the the head of a baby Jesus statue off of it. First they behead the statues, Father, don't they? And then? Since the civil unrest, this from CatholicVote.org. Since civil unrest began on May 28th of 2020, there have been at least 433 attacks on Catholic churches in the United States. 433 in the last 4 years, including acts of arson which damaged or destroyed historic churches, spray painting and graffiti of satanic messages, rocks and bricks thrown through windows, statues destroyed, often with heads cut off, and illegal disruptions of Mass. At least 268 attacks have been perpetrated against Catholic churches since the draft of Supreme Court opinion proposing to reverse Roe v. Wade was leaked in early May of 2022. 433 in the last 4 years, 268 that they have documented, Catholic Vote has, since the Dobbs decision was leaked, including many of those attacks, many of those attacks including graffiti with pro-abortion messages. Crucially, while only a handful of the attacks have included thefts, the vast majority have only involved property destruction, indicating the primary motive is not material gain. No kidding. Right, Father? Why? Why? Because you have these barbarians, the same who tear down the Columbus statue, the same sort who deface synagogues, who set up encampments at college campuses to promote Hamas and intimidate, if not assault, Jewish students. Somebody want to speak to this? You're hearing a lot of discussion about this? I'm not. Kind of important. I mean, again, the if-then sort of what about argument, which is appropriate here. If it was 433 attacks against mosques in this country, would we be hearing about it? I think so. Would we be talking about it here? Yes, we would. Would we be decrying any party responsible for defacing, vandalizing mosques? Yeah, we would. And yet, what are we hearing? Even from within the Catholic leadership or Christian leadership about this? Very little. How many people have rallied to the defense of the traditional Catholics that were targeted by the FBI's Richmond office because they, horror of horrors, attend Latin Mass? We've heard from some politicians on the topic. That's how we know about it, thankfully. The Tom Cottons and Ted Cruzes of the world. But what are we hearing about it from Catholic, Christian leaders? I mean, this should be an interfaith moment, just as it would be, just as it is with anti-Semitic attacks, as it should be, just as it would be and is when a Muslim is attacked for being a Muslim, or there is vandalism that occurs at a mosque. Don't stand for that. You can't stand for that and live in a free society where you respect people's freedom of conscience. But you're hearing a lot from the left these days, Christo-fascism. You heard it earlier, the clip I played from Jasmine Crockett, duly elected socialist Spice Girl from Dallas, Texas. Let me play it again for you.
Right now, what they are trying to do is institute Nazism 2.0 in the United States. And guess what? It's going to be us that's going to be on the receiving end of all of it. So I could go on and on and on about the terrible things that are in there. But the basis of it, they're saying it has to be Christianity. And the fact is, everything has to be really Christo-fascism.
Christo-fascism, right. Oxymoron. Christians are trying to install a theocracy in this country. Conservative Catholics, evangelical Christians. Is that what's happening? That's a threat afoot, is it? That requires a response. That sort of demagoguery, boogeyman politics of the Jasmine Crockett's of the world. Joy Reid has said the same thing. We've heard it. this is going to be their line of attack for the next 5 months. Better get used to it. Better say something about it. And since we have the receipts, as they say, thanks to CatholicVote.org, demanding a response to the level, the frequency of attacks on Catholic and Christian institutions, I think that's part of the national conversation. How about this in terms of if you don't believe, first they behead the monuments, and if the FBI is targeting of conservative Catholics, traditional Catholics who attend the Latin Mass isn't concerning. Military officials at Fort Bragg, I guess it's Fort Liberty now because General Braxton Bragg misgendered someone or something. So it got renamed, so it's not Fort Liberty. Anti-terrorism brief was held at Fort Liberty, where they listed pro-life organizations under the category, several pro-life organizations under the heading terrorist organizations. You see an independent journalist named Sam Shumate got a copy of the PowerPoint. The slide you see followed right after a slide about ISIS, domestic terrorist organizations, which includes the oldest pro-life organization in the country, National Right to Life. National Right to Life is a terrorist organization. Also, other examples of possible terrorists, people with Choose Life license plates and the license plate I'm For It, which is a popular license plate among the Choose Life specialty plates that are available in like 33 or 34 states. Not Illinois, of course. We tried that here, rejected because we don't want to support adoption in this state. We want to allow people to voluntarily support adoption here. No, that'd be terrible. Don't like the messaging. Choose life. Sounds Christo-fascist, doesn't it? The bottom two bullet points under organizations like National Right to Life Committee and Operation Rescue, terrorist groups, according to the U.S. Army. They're characterized by their opposition to abortion and Roe v. Wade. Yeah, the Supreme Court also apparently opposed to the Roe v. Wade. Bad law. The bottom two bullet points, bombing of clinics, attempted murderers. Really? National Right to Life Committee. Would you care to document bombing of clinics and attempted murders that are could be rightfully attributed to the National Right to Life Committee? No. It's just a bullet point on a slide. Don't make a big deal about it. It was just a memo out of the Richmond FBI office. Don't make a big deal about it. It's just beheading a baby Jesus statue in Queens. Don't make a big deal about it. It's just 433 attacks against Catholic churches with satanic messages and pro-abortion graffiti over the last 4 years. Don't make a big deal about it. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Robert and Lyle, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer. Hey, Robert.
You started to say, in the beginning, this started, look at the state of Illinois. It started with Rob Blagojevich, the soft snow bill involved with Clinton. You couldn't be a Democrat unless you supported abortion. Then you got Rob Blagojevich having his kids there while he's signing bills against, women or in favor of abortion. And he's the one that was responsible for, you said, in conscience, coming against people where we supposedly have freedom of religion, which doesn't really exist in our country anymore. He's the one, a pharmacist that want to fill a prescription that might harm a child or something, where they're basically posting rules that you have no authority not to do this or that, which totally comes against people's consciences. And it's just a horrible situation. And in the final, of all the things that ever happened, why didn't the Supreme Court throw out Roe v. Wade after it was found out that she lied? All these things came to the fruition and understanding that she wasn't really raped, and this was the whole idea of starting with abortion rights that eventually snowballed into killing a child for any reason, and then that brought about the end of the federal government being involved in it and handing it back to the states. So as far as I'm concerned, and I'm disgusted, I go to Mass every day, and nobody's promoting people killing or blowing up places that are abortion mills and stuff like that. This is absolutely ludicrous. This is the stuff that's going to destroy our country. People need to know that Kamala Harris is only a 2%er. When she was running against Biden to be the president and of the whole gang of them up there, they all got silenced and offered positions so that he could become the president. And now we got the 2%er. That's what she was. She only had 2% of the vote. That's what the people are going to vote for? This is absolute craziness. They need to promote what Trump is, even though he's probably got some baggage on him. They need to promote what he wants to do. So that's what I'm saying.
Thanks for the call, Robert. So back to my question: is it time to stand up for ourselves? And even if you're not a Christian or Catholic, is it time to stand up and say, or a Jew? I'm not Jewish, but I'm certainly going to stand up against attacks on Jewish Americans or any Americans for their faith. So why are we so afraid to stand up and take public notice of these? They should be chilling attacks on institutions of faith. It's not because they represent some sort of violent crime on the order of murder, although I don't think the people that are beheading statues and committing arson are averse to murder. But it's not like that's the greatest manifestation of violent crime in urban centers. But it speaks to a cultural degradation that people should take notice of. It speaks to an element in this country that does not support peaceful pluralism, that does not support freedom of conscience, and is willing to use violence in furtherance of their position that being Christian or Catholic is not acceptable, being pro-life is not acceptable. And by the way, when U.S. Army decks and FBI field office memos are characterizing people who do hold those views, who do subscribe to those faiths, as terrorists, potential threats to domestic tranquility, I would take notice of that. I think it's pretty chilling. What, the raid of the pro-life activists in rural Pennsylvania didn't get your attention? And this isn't necessarily taking some sort of hard political line on pro-life or anything like that. But it is standing up for sort of the basic tenets of a free society. Somebody needs to articulate that. Some buddies, like many of us who understand this. Sort of like what we heard from that gentleman in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho earlier in the week that we played in opposition to a totalitarian thought crime law that the leftists at the village level in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, wealthy enclave in Idaho, passed. So, we need more people articulating these foundational principles of a free society, because the neo-Marxist left is on the march. Greg in Jefferson Park.
Hey, good morning, Dan. This doesn't seem to ever going to end, and I really wonder with respect to people, for instance, the American Jewish population, 70% of them vote Democrat and are basically leftists. Are they going to continue to do so in this next election, given what's happening in Israel and with Hamas and all that right now? The same thing with the church. I got friends who are Catholics, go to church every week, follow the religion, but are button-wearing union guys who absolutely, they'd vote for, Adolf Hitler before they'd vote for Trump. And it just, I find it astonishing that people aren't not up in arms, but are really fed up and pissed off about all the stuff that's going on. And when is Congress going to drag the head of the Army in front of a congressional committee and start asking them about this? And why the hell are they doing this?
When there's enough public pressure on them to do so. Thanks for the call, Craig.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors in Roselle. Summer is here, which is the ideal time to let the sunshine in and brighten up the house. Make those rooms that may appear small, dark, or dingy look better and bigger with larger windows or patio doors. Our highly skilled installers can enlarge openings if your space allows. For decades, Woodland has been transforming living spaces with Marvin windows, featuring styles ranging from modern to traditional. Marvin replacement windows and doors can also bring your backyard right into your living space. Ask us about connecting the inside to the outside. Since 1969, our professional services, along with the best products and installation, are why we are proud of our great online reviews. Need new windows now? Buy now, pay later with 0% financing for 18 months. Terms and conditions apply. Visit woodlandwindows.com and schedule an appointment today. That's woodlandwindows.com.
AM 560. The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call it now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, it's Dan and Amy. Amy is off today, so it's just Dan, and it's still Open Mic Friday. Taking your calls, 312-642-5600. Turnkey.pro answer line with comments, compliments, concerns, criticisms, general crack pottery. We take it all, and we start, as we always do, with the founder of Turnkey.pro. He is David Kolsek. David, welcome.
Good morning, Dan. Just you and me today, huh?
Yeah. Sorry.
I love it.
All right.
No, it's all good.
Very intimate.
As I've been saying,
table for two.
Table for two. Better than a table for one, though. I've done that too. But anyway, I've been saying for years that people are waking up. It's hard to quantify what it means to be awake and aware, but I've been noticing something interesting, and I wanted to share it with you and your audience. There's a term that people throw around a lot these days called gaslighting. Now, the term gaslighting came from the 1938 play called Gaslight, obviously, where a husband manipulates his wife into believing she's going insane by dimming the gas lights in their home and then denying it. This whole latest incident of Biden being mentally unfit after the debate is just one example in a long series of examples where we're being gaslit. The media and DC apparatus have been telling us for years that Joe Biden has good mental acuity, although we all knew all along that he didn't. He campaigned from the basement in 2020, and he often put a lid on his availability at 11 a.m. 2 years ago, Biden canceled an early meeting with the German ambassador or something because he was tired. We've seen him blibbering and blubbering and all kinds of remarks. Look at last night. But all of a sudden now they're saying, hey, this guy might be mentally unfit. It's classic gaslighting. So don't believe what you see with your own eyes. And it's been happening to us for decades. Who's running the show? And if he's unfit to run, why is he fit to be president? Anyone asking that? Let's talk about some other examples that we've seen. COVID-19, they manufactured videos of people collapsing in the street, dying in overcrowded hospitals in China. Yet no one saw anything like that with their own eyes here or there. That's more gaslighting. It's more than gaslighting. It's actually theater. In 2020, everyone saw the shenanigans that went on election night with the famous water main leak, kicking out election judges, blocking windows, bringing in suitcases of ballots, the mules and the ballot dumps. We all saw what was happening in the middle of the night, yet nothing to see here. Deny, so they could get their senile Manchurian candidate in. And again, don't believe what you see, believe what we tell you. Think about the size of the crowds that Trump draws at his rallies. The crowds are usually huge, yet the media always says that the crowd isn't very disappointing. Think about classifying black and brown criminals as white when clearly the mugshots are not Caucasian. Most of us know someone who was injured or killed by the vaccine, yet the media tells us those incidents are extremely rare and the stories are fake and made up. Millions were injured, hundreds of thousands dead, but don't believe what you see or know to be true. It's safe and effective. We see millions of people pouring on our borders, pardon me, yet they tell us that our borders are secure. Look at New York City and how it's visibly overrun and vandalized, in Chicago as well, vandalized by illegal migrants, and yet you've got the officials like AOC saying, hey, everything's okay. Remember the riots in the Summer of Love, burning buildings in the background, and yet the Beat Street reporter tells all the viewers that it's mostly peaceful. So what I've been noticing with my interactions with people that I come across, many of them strangers, is that people are now recognizing the gaslighting and they're calling it out. I was talking to the guy who cleans the office windows every few weeks. He's a normal guy, and he was telling me that he doesn't believe anything he hears anymore. He's like, they lie about everything. They knew Biden was, mentally unfit, and yet they propped him up. And now I hope they have to live with what they've done. He went on to say, there's no way normal people would believe this guy could be cheated into office again. And then he says we all knew that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but yet they told us that so we could go to war. No one wants this and never has. So normal people are seeing the gaslighting and recognizing it. And I would say that's a different way of saying people are becoming awake. And we're seeing people like AOC get shouted down in New York after she said everything was okay. When the crowd said, close the border, send them back, she eventually retreated into her building for her safety. It's good to call out those lies. What will be interesting to see over the next 4 months or so is what people will do to call out the gaslighting. We're seeing more and more instances where politicians are being called out on the street. Look at Justin Trudeau, right? Mick Jagger recently was at a concert in Canada with the Rolling Stones, and he made some positive comments about Justin Trudeau, and he was booed loudly. He found out very quickly that his elite friend was not popular in his own country. It was very fun to see that very fit looking. I mean, God, he looks great for 80. He was squirming and he had to change subjects quickly. But the funny thing is that it takes a long time to become unbrainwashed. But the populace, I think, is definitely moving in that direction. And how it happens is one person at a time. I remember having conversations with Amy Jacobson during the height of COVID when she was pretty freaked out and didn't need to be. And I think it helped. But during those times, my goal was to wake up one person or comfort them anyway. And it still is. So now you've got really smart listeners on this station, many of whom are awake and aware of the lies, the deception, and the gaslighting, and it's time to call it all out. Remember the slogan that came out, if you see something, say something. Although this is a totally different subject matter, it's definitely applicable today. So the truth sometimes takes a while to come forward, but when we all work together, we're stronger than the elites who've been in control for decades. People always say, what can I do? I'm just one person. Well, you can go wake up your neighbor. You can wake up somebody at the grocery store, the post office. Think of the many tiny ants carrying the dead dragonfly. They did that together. We may be small as one, but we're very powerful as many. So, and it's the gaslighters' worst nightmare. So have a great weekend.
Thanks for the call, David. Very true. I mean, that's something we say often on this show that, and we said during COVID, is that the delusion, the mass delusion can spread like a prairie fire. But you don't get a mass epiphany normally. The delusion happens in multiples, and the deprogramming, the waking up, as David would say, happens sort of one at a time on different timelines. It's very, very frustrating. It requires a lot of patience, doesn't it? All right, let's take some calls. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Jim in Tampa, Florida.
Hey, good morning. I think David made some really good points about that the audience is waking up one person at a time. And what I really liked about your last segment is you didn't talk about politics at all. You were being culturally proactive based on fundamental principles. And this is something we can all do. There's nobody in the audience that you don't have to be a political guru or read polls or know the positions of people to be able to stand on fundamental principles and say, wait a minute, what's this about the statue? You can't do that. Our violence to statues is with devastating arguments based on principle that can't be refuted. And I think that's what I hear you saying. I think Bannon said, politics is downstream from culture. We focus on politics too much, which is important. But we need to focus on these basic cultural issues. So I applaud you for what you did in the last segment. Good job.
Thanks for the call, Jim. Appreciate it. Ralph and Wilmette.
Hey, ditto on the last call. I'm going to ask Amy, but Dan, maybe you can help me out. Amy went on vacation to the Big Blue Hole.
Well, she's returned from that. Yes, she's got some other matters, but yes, she did. Yes.
Where's the Big Blue Hole is I can't imagine why someone would want to spend their vacation time in Winnetka.
Hi-yo. Thanks for the call, Ralph. Should have seen that coming. Lee in Hammond, Indiana.
Yeah, guys, when you mentioned this topic of the Catholic Church is coming under attack. Christianity is the genesis of Western civilization. Like if you really dig through the history of going all the way back to Magna Carta, even the founding of this country, the whole thing is based on Christian principles. Now, these Marxist radicals would love to just throw that right out the window because you can't have Christian principles that actually guarantee that you have a spirit of soul, that you are a creation of God, if you're going to treat people like cattle, which is what they'd love to believe. The thing I don't understand, why is the church, these dingleberry churches, still trying to pretend like it's 1965, and they don't want any kind of controversy here? Well, you know what? That's probably why your churches are half empty. When is the church going to take a stand against this? What are they waiting for? From what I'm hearing right now, the Army actually has an action plan put together to round up domestic dissidents. I don't know what they're waiting for. Do they think it's going to get better on its own? It's not.
Thanks for the call, Lee. Yeah. I mean, it's, you have this cultural disintegration going on of all of America's civic institutions because of a lack of leadership, because of cowardice, because they've been infiltrated by the left, including many of the churches, and destroyed or certainly harmed from within. And now you got to see your way fit to try to resuscitate these organizations, and that requires a fight. And who wants to put in that fight? Who wants to put in the fight pick an institution, any institution. Who wants to put a fight at the local school district? Who wants to put a fight in at the church? Who wants to put a fight in at the nonprofit that you volunteer for? Who wants to put in a fight at your alma mater, your collegiate alma mater? Who wants to put in a fight at the DEI office at your business, your employer? I don't know. Mike, Littleton, Colorado.
Hey, good morning. Happy Friday. Thank you for taking my call. I asked Thomas Sowell once, of all the things America lost, what has been the most damaging? He didn't even hesitate. He said it's sense of shame. And, with all of this talk about, the senility of politicians and their criminality and this and that, and, how can we structure our system that, only if you check these boxes can you run to be, for political office. I worry more about the people who vote. I want them vetted for sanity. Fickle bought off, when Lenin said capitalism will sell itself the rope it hangs from. You think about these churches, and I'm a born-again Christian. They've completely sold out. They're apostate just to fill the pews.
Yeah,
and,
except of
bad
course.
spot to begin.
Yeah, as Lee just mentioned, though, it's boomeranging on them. They think that's the path of least resistance to maintain the institution, and they're diluting the institution and driving people who are serious about the faith away. And so they have people that show up to sort of check a box, but that's not going to be the backbone of a particularly vibrant institution, is it? Thanks for the call, Mike. I mean, I go back. I mean, since I've been saying, sort of this fight over General Secretary Joe is between the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks. I mean, it certainly calls to mind Solzhenitsyn, and without making too many Soviet comparisons, although I did write an op-ed saying the Democrats have gone full Soviet, so I guess I have to own that, and I'm happy to actually. Solzhenitsyn, in his address 40 years ago when he received the Templeton Prize, he wrote. And this because I was thinking about this. More than half a century ago, while I was still a child, I recall hearing a number of older people offer the following explanation for the great disasters that had befallen Russia. Men have forgotten God. That's why all this happened. Yeah, basically. Is that where we are? Basically, yeah. I mean, it's simple. There's a lot of complicated discussions underneath that sentence, but yeah, that's a pretty good one-sentence summation. Joe, Franklin Park.
Good morning, Dan. Thank you for taking my call. I think my question is, and I'd like to hear obviously your response is, why are we involved with NATO at all when we're going on 2 or 3 years in this war with Russia and Ukraine, and I don't see anything being accomplished. And so if we have 27 or whatever countries that are involved in NATO, and they can't get this event motivated somehow to get an end to it? I guess I just don't see the purpose then of being involved with NATO.
Well, thanks for the call, Joe. I mean, I don't think that because NATO doesn't have the capacity to resolve the matter between Russia and Ukraine, not that the West has handled it brilliantly, far from it, but I don't think that necessarily undermines the alliance and the importance of the alliance. I mean, the idea that the Western world, at least in theory, the idea that the Western world would unify to protect countries that have at least were founded on generally similar principles with an eye towards representative government and a free people to protect that illustration of civilization against totalitarian aggressors. I think there's some value in that. So I wouldn't say that the inability to resolve that invasion by Russia and Ukraine, and again under the leadership of Joe Biden here, because America takes the lead when it comes to the alliance, I don't think that necessarily impugns it. I think it's just a question of better leadership with a good idea that isn't sort of fully being consummated because of the lack of said leadership. Kevin, Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, Ogden Dunes.
Professor Proft, we Democrats have a very large bone to pick with you this morning. You and your ilk are claiming that the great President Biden is hurting for certain. But look at the shoe on the other glove. The voting about Trump suggests that nearly all educated women are crazy, and it's just a matter of degree. And furthermore, because the percentage of males making up every college graduating class is fewer and fewer, pretty soon the only white boys at your top universities will be the ones on the girls' athletic teams. You conservatives claim that Biden is an old roll of toilet paper, and the closer he gets to the end, the less he can help the situation. You people are claiming that the Democrats have no party unity at the moment. I will now take a page out of Joe's forceful speaking. Look, it might be true that most Democrats have numerous friends who are bilingual. And so they worry when the top Democrat may not even be lingual. You claim that the Democrats are segmenting into two ranks akin to the bowling alley Bolsheviks versus the George Clooney Mensheviks. I'm depressed knowing about how the Mexico City ice pick business ended up. But let me remind you of two important things. Number one, Bill Clinton is still hot to Trotsky. And lastly, Joe Biden may no longer be Superman. Okay. Maybe we'll just have to settle for that guy, Clark Kent, the wimpy guy. He can't seem to get intimate, and he goes around and lies to everybody. But we'll settle for Clark Kent, if you please, Mr. Proft.
Okay, Prime Minister, that was Biden-esque. I certainly give you that. Thank you very much. Matt in Oak Lawn, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Happy Friday. Speaking of Scranton Joe playing golf against the Trumpster, if there's such a thing as a funny dementia golf story, I've got one. So some years ago, my dad was diagnosed with dementia, and we were naturally heartbroken. My birthday was coming up, and I said, hey, I wanted to go out and play golf. And we had played a ton of golf together over the years, and wanted to get one round in. And we get to the first tee, and he's just atrocious. It was way worse than I thought. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, my God, I'm going to this is outrageous. This is terrible. I didn't know he was this sick. I have a fall birthday. The second hole, he takes his jacket off and he proceeds to beat me in golf. So we go in. We're having some beers afterward, and he kind of looked over and whispered in my ear. He says, "You realize you just lost to a guy with Alzheimer's, right?"
Very good. Thanks for the call, Matt, and the story. I mean, I got to say, too, there's so much of the comeuppance that is occurring with Biden, Team Biden, over the last couple of weeks. I mean, but just some classics, just, for entertainment value. We try to do a little bit of that here. I mean, remember Biden's debate challenge? Remember his debate challenge? Wasn't that long ago? I don't know if he remembers it.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
He's a funny guy then. Not so funny now. And in terms of who knew what when, of course, they all knew this for a long time. But there were some tells months ago that went, of course, largely unnoticed because they were all providing cover from one another for the big guy. But this is Chris Coons, again, his buddy from Delaware, senator, his co-campaign chairman, along with the Cookie Monster, back in March, making the case, as several Democrats did, for no debates.
I was in the room for the debate in Cleveland that Chris Wallace tried to moderate, and it was chaotic at best. Donald Trump just busted through every possible rule or regulation of decency or decorum or following any of the directives of the moderator. I wouldn't encourage it, but I don't think the campaign or the president has made a decision yet. I just think that, frankly, the American people need to make up their own minds based on what difference Joe Biden has made in their lives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The record. No debates. Gosh, what was Chris Coons worried about back in March, I wonder? Suzanne, Mount Prospect.
Yes, I just want to let people know, if there's someone out there that's looking for a church that addresses the issues of our time, they should try Cornerstone Chapel in Leesburg, Virginia. They have online services, and their membership is just growing.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the recommendation, Suzanne. Appreciate it. Glenn in Orlando.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. I have a source that's told me that Joe Biden has set up an appointment with his doctor. He'll be seeing his gynecologist in 2 weeks.
Hi-oh. Thanks for the call, Glenn. By the way, did you see his actual doctor? Not the neurological specialist, but the Parkinson's specialist, but his actual doctor, O'Connor. Dr. Heal Thyself. He's got a BMI that's approaching Pritzker levels based on the pictures I saw. Mark in the Western Burbs.
Yeah, hi, Dan. In keeping with your theme about, faith and what's happening, I've said before, how do you create a third world country? You take a first world country, you remove God and the rule of law. So to reverse that, we need to bring God back in. So my ask is just people pray more. And because, that cab driver that you were talking about earlier, you're not going to get to him, through rational means. It has to be through the Holy Spirit. So I'll leave it with that for today.
Thanks for the call, Mark. Appreciate it. David in Winnetka.
Hey, good morning, Dan. When a blatantly racist mayor aggressively calling for the hatred towards white, and there's no greater threat to black men than other black men, when criminals are suddenly victims and victims suddenly become criminals, when the unhinged, the freak schools, goblins, weirdos, and zombies use violence attacking churches and those who don't agree with them. Yeah, absolutely. It's just time to stand up. But listening to your show just now, I was thinking, why we just sat here and done nothing? Like it just, except one kid, Kyle Rittenhouse, that was it. Why? And I think it's because the Bible says that the meek shall inherit the earth, and I believe that's what's going on. Thanks.
All right, thanks for the call, David. I don't know how many people are poring over their Beatitudes. But speaking of BLM Brandon, I just found this delightful. The NPR Times, a state-funded and state-run media here in Chicago. Fact check. Oh, the fact checkers. Hey, somebody get the fact checkers. A viral tweet wrongly claims Brandon Johnson blamed Richard Nixon for Chicago violence. Well, they're talking about the Blaze tweeting out the same thing I tweeted out, the same thing we talked about earlier in the week, of course. And the Nixon Foundation's response to it and so on and so forth, which was largely unnecessary because of just, the general ridiculousness of the things that BLM Brandon said and says on a routine basis. But the fact check is just comical. I mean, first of all, to even bother doing it, the fact check says that Johnson didn't blame Nixon for violence in Chicago. Mayor's only mention of Nixon came after reflecting on LBJ's war on poverty. Well, that's not what he said. I mean, we had a chance. We had a moment. We had a window back in 1968. I don't know that he remember. I don't remember he used the exact year, and we elected Nixon instead of LBJ. This is all in the context of talking about violence in Chicago. So the implication couldn't have been clearer. Not to mention, I mean, this is what he goes around saying all the time. If you don't support, and this is what Stacey Davis Gates, this whole identitarian Bolshevik party does. If you don't support blank check government, then you're a white supremacist. Okay. Elizabeth, Western Springs.
Hi, good morning. When you had the caller on, I forgot his name, he went through the whole litany of everything that we're witnessing. And, we tried to do things here in our school, get these kids back in school, then it was get the masks off. Every parent I talked to almost felt the same way, but people would not come forward. When we did get people to attend the meetings or speak, we'd experience change. So, some people are leaving some of the Catholic churches in Cook County and going over. There's some in DuPage. It's sad I don't even feel comfortable mentioning what churches those are. But what that man said was, explain to one person and try to get through, and that's what we do, and you can't be scared. And not a racist. I use common sense and logic, and leftists don't like to hear that, but it works. So everyone has to keep plugging away.
Thanks for the call, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. Lockie in Addison.
Yes, I was wanting to put forth a church that's in our area in Elmhurst, Illinois. Elmhurst Seventh-day Adventist Church. We go by the Bible, and we welcome anyone who would like to come. I think once we get back to the Bible, there will be much, much better for everyone in our country and our lives as well. So that's Elmhurst SDA Seventh-day Adventist Church in Elmhurst, Illinois. It's also online as well on YouTube.
All right, thanks very much. Appreciate that. Harry in La Cruces, New Mexico.
Hi, Dan. Good morning. I just wanted to offer a little bit of caution with respect to getting a little bit too aggressive about encroaching certain topics that can be used against us, like abortion. They will mischaracterize, misrepresent, out and out lie, and take things out of context in order to make the right look like it wants to impose a theocracy, basically. So you got to approach those topics carefully right towards an election, I think.
Well, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Thanks for the call, Harry. But they're going to do what you just said, whether you say anything or you say nothing. So the question is, what are you going to say? We're always so worried about what they're going to say. What are we going to say? And I mean, and basically, I'm supportive of Trump's position on abortion, and it's Doug Burgum's too, by the way, which is, 50 years to overturn Roe v. Wade, which is bad law. That got done, and now it's up to the states. I don't want federal action on it. It is a state fight because it was bad law. It was overturned, and now it's a battle at hearts and minds at the state level, hearts and minds in local elections, and that's consistent with our federal system. It's consistent with subsidiarity. It's not consistent with the idea that every child is born in the image of God and deserves to be protected from womb to tomb, that life is inviolate. It's not consistent with that, I understand, but there's a political reality. And so that progress that was made with the Dobbs decision is substantial. So we can talk about it, and I've written about this too. I'm not willy-nilly about it. This is not, fire and brimstone. But understand, just because you don't want to talk about something doesn't mean they won't. Just because you retreat doesn't mean they won't follow you. And they're talking about this now, particularly in the context of Kamala, that she could really use the abortionist as a cudgel in a way that Biden can't. So if it's a close race, and if it's not Biden, and more likely than not, if it's not, it will be Kamala, you better be prepared to have more than I'm worried about what they're going to say about us. Kevin in Austin, Texas.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. You were talking about people are forgetting God, and I forget exactly who said it. Is it Edmund Burke? I'm not sure, but for evil to persist, good men need to do nothing.
Yeah, Edmund Burke.
And yeah, so I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the good men have tried to step up? Specifically in Illinois, what's the state of the Illinois Republican Party now that the chair is vacant, I guess? And also, I think there are a couple congressional races that can actually make an impact on it. So should people get involved in the races directly, since the Republican Party seems to be, absent in Illinois?
Yeah, I would say yes, directly. Pick a race and get involved directly if you'd like, or go to Wisconsin and get involved in the presidential. But yes, directly, and we'll see. They're going to install a new state party chairman soon, so we'll see what happens there. Chuck and Delavan, quickly.
Hey, public service announcement, firemanUSA.com, 32 days till the primary. Come to Elkhorn today. We got Rib Fest, starts at 12 noon with Karen Shook as a headliner. Bella King tonight. It's free, but you got to pay for your own ribs. So you guys come on up. It's fun.
All right, Chuck, thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. Boy, I do have a taste for ribs now hearing that from Chuck. It is now 9 a.m., WIND, AM 560 Chicago.
It's 18 Democrats now. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. More House Democrats are publicly asking